Chapter 725. A rainbow halo suddenly appeared above the demonic baby's head, from which boundless divine light burst forth. And Lin's pupils contracted as his heart jolted with fear. This is the power of the divine Tao. The power of the divine Tao was a power that could only be unleashed by Tao integration stage mighty figures or mighty figures of the Tao integration stage. However, this demonic baby was also able to unleash this power. No, this power seems to be flawed, and Lin had battled Xing Tian, Go Chun, Ziwei, and other top-rate mighty figures in the past, so he had a certain level of experience with this type of power. As such, he could sense that the power of the divine Tao unleashed by the demonic baby was flawed. However, even if it was flawed, this type of power was not something that a normal return to void stage mighty figure could compare with. The demonic baby wielded its black spear, and the golden flaming tiger's spatial seal was instantly shattered. Roar! At this moment, the golden flaming tiger's claws were already sweeping toward the demonic baby. The demonic baby flapped its wings, and its body instantly flashed behind the golden flaming tiger. And Lin thought that the demonic baby was evading the golden flaming tiger's attack, but he was immediately dumbstruck in the next instant. This was because the golden flaming tiger's body had suddenly been sliced in half, and its body began to dissipate into the air. The demonic baby had already unleashed a counterattack at the same time it evaded the attack, and it was so fast that even Lin didn't notice it. His 200,000 spirit stone attack was completely useless. The demonic baby turned its green eyes toward Lin, and a peculiar smile appeared on its face. Wah, wah, wah. A chill ran down Lin's spine as he felt an indescribable sense of pressure. He felt like the demonic baby was looking at him, as if it were looking at a dead man. Divine Inspection Technique. Second stage Wind Spirit Technique. And Lin's eyes turned snowy white, and at the same time, a pair of white wind wings appeared on his back. In any case, he had to maintain these two standard skills for at least 3 minutes. Otherwise, he would be dead before he knew it. Oh, there were only 2.5 minutes left, and the demonic baby didn't seem to be in a hurry to attack. And Lin was more than happy to face it off. Why don't you fight me for 3 minutes? Whoosh, a crisp, buzzing sound rang out, and a pair of massive crimson eyes suddenly appeared behind the demonic baby. Those two pupils contained boundless depravity, brutality, slaughter, fear, death. A blood-red world suddenly unfolded in front of him, causing Lin's brain to buzz and become dizzy. This was a divine soul attack, and Lin never imagined that the demonic infant would choose such a method of attack. If it were in existence with a weak divine soul, it was likely that their souls would be instantly destroyed by this attack. However, it was a pity that Lin's consciousness was top-notch even among return to void stage mighty figures. Lin clutched his head and screamed. His expression was one of extreme pain. The demonic infant smiled smugly, as if she admired Lin's expression very much. Chirp! However, Lin continued to yell for a whole minute, and nothing else happened. Lin covered his head with both hands and kept screaming until he was out of breath. Anyone who screamed for a minute would be so tired that they would be out of breath. The smile on the demonic infant's face gradually disappeared, and a confused expression appeared on its face. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It silently canceled its divine soul technique, only to discover that Lin was still howling with anguish. Lin screamed with an extremely painful expression. He turned toward the demonic infant, only to discover that its crimson eyes had already disappeared. An awkward expression appeared on his face as he screamed. The demonic infant's expression was extremely dark. Then, its expression gradually became more and more sinister. The feeling of being treated like a stupid C** in T welled up in its heart, and it finally exploded with rage. The rainbow halo above its head quickly revolved, and its might exploded forth, causing the entire space around it to tremor violently. Chirp, chirp, chirp. At the same time, Lin pulled out a high-ranked spirit sword. 9 dragons, immortal locking sword. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. Bam! The 9 dragons' immortal locking sword shattered, and the dragon's scale-like shards shimmered with a dazzling light in the air. This was a technique that was worth 500,000 spirit stones. Hang in there. There was still a minute and a half left. And Lin was just about to unleash the full power of the 9 dragons' immortal locking sword when a black figure appeared before him with a sinister smile on its face. Chirp! And Lin had already activated his divine inspection technique, and all of his senses were heightened to the maximum. Everything appeared to be moving in slow motion, which was what the people on Earth referred to as bullet time. Even so, the demonic infant speed was still unfathomably fast in his eyes. The black spear pierced through the air like a bolt of lightning, and Lin unleashed all of his power to evade, but he was only able to deflect his body slightly before the spear punctured his shoulder. Splat! And Lin's body plummeted to the ground like a flying sword, and blood gushed forth like a fountain. A tearing sensation swept through his entire body, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his body of the war god was completely useless in the face of the demonic infant spear. The demonic infant pulled out the spear with a sinister smile before stabbing it toward Lin's head. In the face of absolute power and speed, Lin felt like it was an extravagant hope for him to even unleash a technique. For example, his sword had already been buried, and he didn't even have a chance to unleash that power before his opponent had him pinned to the ground and was about to kill him. How the F***ck was he supposed to fight now? A hint of despair welled up in Lin's heart. The black spear was just about to plunge into the ground again when a burst of terrifying golden energy surged forth from afar, dyeing the entire space golden. This energy was imbued with the power to disintegrate all matter into the smallest particles. This was a high-tech annihilation cannon. Boom! The demonic infant was blasted flying. Its chubby body tumbled to the ground, and its doo had been torn, with smoke billowing from its stomach. A silver Gundam aimed its hands at the demonic infant, with smoke billowing from the holes in its palms and engine oil flowing from the corners of its mouth. Lin was ecstatic. Good job, Gundam 3. As expected, this new teammate was a lot more reliable than Donghua and had saved his life in a dire situation. He immediately stood up and gripped the air toward the demonic infant. 9 dragons, immortal locking. Activate. Roar. 9 black dragons descended from the sky before pouncing toward the demonic infant, using their black dragon bodies to form a complex spell formation. 9 dragons, immortal locking spell formation. Wind, rain, and lightning also appeared at this moment before surging toward the demonic infant, crashing relentlessly into its body. The terrifying sealing power even caused the peculiar metallic surface of the ground to cave in, and the demonic infant's chubby body was twisted and warped by the power of the spell formation. Lin calculated the time in his mind to find that there was still 1 minute left. He had to hold on until the very last minute. Lin pulled out another high-rank spirit tool, the North Star Sword. Only the high-rank spirit tool, the Sword Burial, could have some effect on the demonic infant now. He couldn't stop spending money. Otherwise, if he lost his life, he wouldn't even have a chance to spend money anymore. If a 500,000 spirit stone technique didn't work, then he would add another 500,000 spirit stone. Let's see if you're scared of a million. Lin's entire body was glowing with the light of a tycoon as he looked down at the demonic infant trapped within the spell formation. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. Bam! The North Star sword exploded. Chapter 726. The high-rank spirit tool, the North Star sword, shattered into specks of light. A 500,000 spirit stone technique had been unleashed in that instant. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of dazzling stars appeared in the air, forming a starry sky formation above the demonic baby. A pillar of white light fell from the sky, shaking the heavens. The stars crashed down upon the demonic baby, eliciting a series of cries from it. Donghua stared blankly at the indescribably terrifying spell techniques that Lin had unleashed, and he was so astonished that he couldn't even close his mouth. In particular, All of the extremely precious spirit tools had exploded right before his eyes, completely shattering his outlook on cultivation. This kind of sword explosion technique was extremely terrifying. One had to realize that among the spirit swords that had just exploded, 3 of them were comparable in power to his Green Dawn spirit sword. But they had all exploded just like that. What else could he say? Rich. Inhumane rich. But just how many spirit swords didn't Lin have to explode? If he ran out of swords, would he? With this in mind, Dong's body shuddered, and he gripped his storage ring tightly as he contemplated whether he should hide it. After all, he still had a few spirit tools in his storage ring. Just how powerful was this technique that it cost him 1,000,000 spirit stones? 9 immortal ceiling dragons, starlight fell, and wind and lightning wreaked havoc. Even though the demonic baby could unleash power that was close to the power of the divine Tao, it was still immobilized by this terrifying sealing spell technique. The meteors pierced through the air before crashing into its body, causing its skin to cave in or crack open. Bah! The demonic baby suddenly let loose a strange cry. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura erupted forth, and Lin's breathing faltered for a moment. The demonic baby's muscles suddenly bulged as green energy flames enshrouded its entire body. Its green hair stood up on end like needles, and it had transformed into a muscular baby. The demonic baby wielded its black spear and slashed it through the air in a semicircle. A series of tiny skulls formed a series of black ripples that were imbued with the power to engulf all things before instantly vanquishing the 9 black dragons. And Lin's expression shifted drastically as he pulled out another high-rank spirit sword. The North Star meteor formation was still activated, and the demonic baby stabbed its black spear into the sky. Bam! Space exploded, as if a black hole had appeared, completely vanquishing the North Star meteor formation. 30 seconds left, and Lin positioned his sword before him and activated his sword burial technique. It was also at this moment that a black spear crashed into the high-rank spirit sword. Crack! Bam! The high-rank spirit sword exploded, but it was destroyed by the black spear. It turned in a peculiar arc in the air before stabbed forward. It turned in a mysterious arc in the air and suddenly stabbed forward. With this stab, his aura rose to the peak, as if he could even pierce through the great Tao of the world. Even with the enhancements of his divine inspection technique and wings of wind, and Lin was still unable to evade. His body of the war god was punctured once again, and a ghastly hole was blasted into his chest. And Lin spat out a large mouthful of blood as the excruciating pain of being torn apart spread throughout his entire body. The demonic baby SPE and gun, and of but the demon, and through but the dim, and his but his demon, and dim, but the demonic infant's bones creaked in the gravitational field, but its movements were still extremely fast. It pulled out the spear that had been stabbed into Lin's body and positioned it in front of itself to block Gundam 3's attack. At the same time, a white halo appeared on his left fist, and a holy aura spread outward. The projection of an archangel appeared behind the demonic infant, and it chanted a holy chant as the power of his fist swelled explosively once again. Rumble. The demonic baby's fist crashed down upon Gundam 3's body, and heaven and earth seemed to have lost their luster. The space within a radius of several hundred meters was warped and shattered by this punch, and Gundam 3's super alloy shell caved in and cracked open as boundless energy erupted forth. His entire body was like a meteor, crashing into the very edge of this vast space, causing the unknown metal wall to cave in. Z. Ka. Gundam 3's body spasmed uncontrollably as sparks flew from its body. It had clearly been crippled. 20 seconds left. And Lin had already taken this opportunity to retreat over 100 steps and completely use sword burial. Advanced spirit sword. Demon vanquishing spirit sword. The spirit sword that had been destroyed by the demonic baby instantly exploded into specks of golden light. That's right. Even though the sword had been shattered, the essence within it was still present. So, it could still be used. This was like a portion of gasoline being split into two portions. As long as there was no leakage in the process, it could still burn. This was an even more advanced spirit sword, and Lin Junjun had valued it at 550,000 spirit stones. The demonic baby had only just sent Gundam 3 flying when the entire space had been transformed into a vast expanse of golden light. Countless golden Sanskrit characters imbued with extremely powerful sealing power enshrouded the demonic baby, and the power of purification caused its body to falter as the black spear in its hand began to wail and screech. The green flames on the demonic baby's body clashed relentlessly with the golden Sanskrit characters to resist the fearsome power. It turned its eyes toward Enlin to discover a gargantuan golden fist descending upon its body with the power to crush the heavens. Boom! The demonic baby's body was flattened by the terrifying power of the fist, and it threw up a large mouthful of white blood as it flew back several hundred meters before crashing into the metal wall, where it was embedded deeply into the wall. History was always eerily similar. Enlin had avenged Gundam 3. There were still 10 seconds left. Enlin panted heavily. Even though sword burial was the most effortless technique, it was still very tiring to use it 6 times in a row. Furthermore, there were 2 holes on his body, and he had to use the origin energy of the netherworld every time he used sword burial. This was an extremely exhausting battle. He searched through his storage ring to find that there were no more high-rank spirit swords, but there were many other spirit tools, and Lin, my God, why'd he drop the ball at such a crucial moment? If he had known this was going to happen, he would have gone to the Celestial Court's Spirit Treasure Pavilion to exchange for a bunch of spirit swords. He turned his eyes toward the intermediate rank spirit swords to discover that there were still a few of them. Screw it. Even if the intermediate rank spirit swords were a little weaker, he would just have to make do with them. However, he didn't even get a chance to pull out the spirit swords before an indescribable burst of power hurtled toward his body. The demonic baby had unleashed a punch toward Enlin from afar. The terrifying force of the punch pierced through the air and landed directly on his body, making him feel as if his internal organs had been ruptured as he threw up a mouthful of blood mixed with fragments of his internal organs. Enlin's body had only just landed on the ground when a huge baby with white blood trickling from the corner of its mouth appeared before him with a sinister smile on its face. He didn't even have time to react in the face of a miraculous technique like spatial blink. The black spear was right in front of him, and Enlin's mind raced in this life and death situation. What kind of power could stop the demonic baby before him? The vermilion bird mirror definitely wouldn't work. This wasn't a spell technique, it was a pure physical attack. The chaotic alloy brick wouldn't work either, as it would crush him to death. The black spear had already fallen, and Lin's eyes widened as invisible ripples instantly proliferated outward. I'll make you cry. Bam! The green eyes of the huge baby suddenly exploded. The fake eyes couldn't shed tears, but they did. Tears of blood flowed from its eyes again. The huge baby wailed in anguish as the black spear fell. And Lin took advantage of this momentary gap to dodge to the side and evade that lethal strike. It was also at this moment that Enlin pulled out an inky black box. This was none other than the extremely powerful artifact that Enlin had obtained from Lin Junjun, the 1,000 Possibility Box. After a period of charging, it had already stored up to 50% of its energy reserves. 1,000 Possibility Box, kill this wailing monster for me. Enlin roared as he activated the 1,000 Possibility Box with all his might and aimed the black hole at the demonic baby. Boom! The projection of a divine maiden appeared in the air with her entire body enshrouded in a holy light. She was so perfect, so powerful. The divine maiden extended a slender hand and slammed it viciously toward the demonic baby. Slap! An earth-shattering boom erupted. Enlin stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with a dumbstruck expression. The demonic baby's body swayed from the sudden slap to the face, and a scorching sensation spread across its cheeks. The divine maiden glowered at it with a hint of disappointment in her eyes before slowly disappearing. The 1,000 possibility box's energy reserves jumped from 50% to 49%. This slap was filled with love, and everyone fell deathly silent. And Lin and the demonic baby both stood rooted to the spot and stared blankly at one another. Chapter 727. I've had my entire body used up to charge this 1,000 possibility box. In the face of life and death, you've given me a slap to the face? And Lin was astonished. The demonic baby was also astonished. No one had ever given it such a resounding slap to the face. This slap wasn't just a slap to the face, it was also a slap to the depths of its soul, as if it were a loving mother trying to slap a misguided child to its senses with a resounding slap. Wah! Tears of blood flowed from the demonic baby's empty eyes. Its body trembled slightly, and it unconsciously knelt to the ground. "Mommy, I was wrong, Mommy. Don't leave me." A voice as clear as a spring sounded, as if it were the sobbing of a little angel. The demonic baby's voice became even more adorable. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, boom. Scorching green lava gushed forth from the rainbow halo above the demonic baby's head before flowing into the crater again. The demonic baby's body slowly shrank. Its green hair also fell off as it became bald again. After the green lava was completely released, the demonic baby reverted back to its original size. No, it was even smaller than before. The fleshy wings on its back had disappeared, its eyes were tightly shut, and its chubby body was curled up into a ball as if it were in a deep slumber. A white halo enshrouded its body, giving it an extremely serene appearance. Its facial features were extremely delicate, and its sinister appearance from before was nowhere to be seen. It's finally over, and Lin's legs gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground as he panted heavily. In this battle, it could be said that he had gone beyond his limits. He had used almost all of his trump cards, including the 6 extremely valuable spiritual swords. F***. My heart hurts. Millions of spirit stones are gone. And Lin's heart spasmed with this in mind, and his blood flow almost became unstable. "Big brotherin, do you want me to land the killing blow for you?" Woof! Dabai reverted back to his giant dog form before running toward Lin with a menacing look on his face. Dabai had been completely petrified by the terrifying demonic baby, and he didn't even dare to make his presence known. But now that the demonic infant had turned into someone who could be easily bullied, it could no longer hold back the power in its body. After all, it was still good at kicking kindergartens. As the saying goes, a tiger that falls to the plains will be bullied by dogs. A dog that doesn't know how to beat a drowning dog is not a good dog. And Lin hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Kill him. Don't be fooled by his angelic appearance. If he recovers, we'll all be finished." "Yes, woof." Dabai chuckled before pouncing toward the demonic baby. "Wait." At this moment, Bai Ling's voice suddenly sounded. "That demonic baby has expended all of its energy and has entered a dormant state. It won't be able to harm anyone for the time being. If you attack it, you'll trigger its self-defense mechanism, and it will awaken again." These words frightened Lin and Dabai so much that their expressions changed. Dabai even quietly took a few steps back, afraid that his killing intent would trigger the demonic infant. He looked like a cowardly dog. F***. He almost committed suicide. "Don't worry. I could try to control the demonic infant after I regain control of this place." Bai Ling consoled him with a gentle smile. She seemed to be in a much better condition than before, and her words were also a little more relaxed. And Lin completely relaxed. Only now did he realize just how bad his condition was. His body was severely wounded, his internal organs were almost completely ruptured, and he was severely overexerted. If he really wanted to recover, he would probably need at least 10 days to half a month. He thought for a moment before pulling out a crimson pill with a pained expression on his face. In his current situation, he might have to continue battling, so he had to do his best to recover from his injuries. Screw it. Wasn't it just an immortal pill? He had already spent so much money on it, so one more immortal pill wasn't a big deal. The immortal pill in his hand was an 8th grade immortal pill known as the Blood Rakshasa pill. It was something he had obtained from one of his blood tribe underlings, and it was also his last blood Rakshasa pill. Its effect was to recover one's blood and injuries at an extremely fast rate, so it was a super divine pill that was extremely suitable for use in battle. And Lin swallowed the immortal pill before stowing the almost useless Gundam 3 into his storage ring. This silver Gundam could recover by absorbing the energy from spirit stones, but unfortunately, there were no more spirit stones left in his storage ring. All of them had been taken by Lin Junjun. Ah, how pitiful. And Lin couldn't really be considered a pauper right now. He was still a tycoon in the cultivation world, but all of his valuables had been converted into physical items. Just like some tycoons on Earth, they had dozens of mansions, tens of thousands of square meters of land, planes, and yachts, but they didn't have the cash to buy tea eggs on the streets. How pitiful, how pitiful. And Lin sighed with emotion before making his way toward Donghua. Get up, and Lin instructed. Donghua lay in the blood-souled jade coffin with a confused expression. And Lin pointed at the 2 bloody holes on his body. My injuries are quite severe, so let me recover first. You go outside the coffin and recover. I'm much more powerful than you are, so we have to recover to the peak of our team as soon as possible. That's the most important thing. Donghua's heart spasmed as he felt like he had been stabbed by a sword. He walked out of the coffin with tears streaming down his face before silently meditating beside the spirit pill. He really wanted to retort, but he couldn't find the words to do so. In this world where martial prowess reigned supreme, human emotions were so cold and emotionless that one couldn't experience even a hint of warmth. And Lin lay in the coffin. The blood-souled jade coffin was able to absorb the energy of this divine mountain to replenish its own energy. He swallowed another blood Rakshasa pill, and his injuries were recovering at an extremely fast rate under the dual healing effects of the blood Rakshasa pill. Puffed. A smile involuntarily appeared on Bai Ling's face upon seeing this. She spoke in a gentle voice, and Lin, I didn't think you'd become so powerful after not seeing you for a while. Even the demonic baby couldn't do anything to you. And Lin waved a hand with a calm expression. Don't make a big deal out of it. Bai Ling's lips twitched slightly, but she quickly composed herself. After all, she was quite familiar with Lin's personality, and she continued, to be honest, you're the fastest person I've ever seen to become more powerful. It's truly astonishing. Do you have some kind of secret to becoming more powerful? This was a very difficult question to answer. Perhaps it's because I have my main character halo. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. He had the God of War system. That was his main character halo. Bai Ling really didn't know how to respond. She had never seen such a confident person before. By the way, did you come here to fight for control of this world? Is Black Spirit Snake a match for you? And Lin suddenly asked. He had come up with many theories based on the information he had gathered. Bai Ling nodded. This place is the Purple Star 6th Research Institute, which is also known as the Phoenix Research Institute. This place originally belonged to the Purple Star, but after the fall of the Purple Star civilization, Nuwa took over this research institute. And Lin's interest was instantly piqued upon hearing this. Anyone would be interested in something that involved a legendary mighty figure like Nuwa. Furthermore, from Bai Ling's tone, it sounded like Black Spirit Snake was a member of Nuwa's faction. So you're saying that Nuwa's faction is unwilling to give up this research institute after seeing the arrival of a genuine Purple Star? Bai Ling wore a nonchalant expression. I don't know what Nuwa's intentions are, but at the very least, Black Spirit Snake is unwilling to submit. That makes sense. After all, she has been managing this research institute for so many years. If she was forced to relinquish control as soon as I arrived, then all of her previous efforts would have been for naught. No one would be willing to submit to that. So you guys started fighting? And Lin asked. A faint smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. I made a bet with her. She relinquished control of this research institute. Then we competed to see who would be the master of this research institute first. And Lin's eyes lit up with elation. You're the mastermind of the Purple Star Research Institute. Doesn't that mean you're definitely going to win? No, judging from the current situation, I'm definitely going to lose. Otherwise, why do you think I have so much free time to chat with you? Bai Ling heaved a forlorn sigh. Lin. Chapter 728. This reply was far too unexpected, and Lin almost sprained his back. Holy F asterisk CK. You're about to F asterisk King lose. Why are you still so confident? Lin was astonished. Bai Ling shrugged with a smile. I'm confident that I'm going to lose, but can I? Lin's lips twitched. You're about to lose this research institute. How can you be so calm? Bai Ling's expression was still not dejected. So what if I'm calm? I can't beat Black Spirit Snake, so I have no choice. I'm sorry, I dragged you into this. Lin was a little apologetic. He had been trapped by the Silver Gundam and the demonic baby, and if it weren't for Bai Ling's intervention, he would not have been saved. From Black Spirit Snake's words, he knew that his intervention would definitely have a huge impact on Bai Ling's fight for control of the Research Institute. Don't tell me that. Bai Ling waved her hand and said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have set foot in this world again. The Research Institute isn't that important. It's my fortune to get it, but it's my fate to lose it. So what she's trying to say is that I'm more important than the Research Institute. And Lin's heart was filled with guilt upon hearing this. By the way, we can't let them have that phoenix egg. Bai Ling turned toward the area behind Lin and said, after all, that's the most precious thing in our Purple Star Phoenix Research Institute. I'll teach you a spell formation. Inscribe that spell formation onto the phoenix egg, then drip your blood essence onto it to tame it and make it acknowledge you as its master. If someone else obtained this phoenix egg, they really wouldn't be able to do anything to it. It's exactly because of this that Black Spirit Snake is taking her time to execute her plan. However, you were the one who obtained the phoenix egg, and you encountered me. Perhaps this is fate. A hint of melancholy appeared in Bai Ling's eyes, as if she was reminiscing about the past. Lin was a little hesitant upon hearing this. Big Sister Bai, this phoenix egg is so precious. Are you really willing to give it to me? From what they had just said, this egg should also belong to the Purple Star. However, Bai Ling wanted him to establish a relationship with the phoenix egg, which was quite unexpected to him. This is your opportunity, so don't dawdle. Bai Ling's expression darkened as she spoke in a disgruntled voice. Lin nodded. Then he thought of something else. What if I'm hunted by the Nuoff forces after I take the phoenix egg for myself? Bai Ling, good question. I've decided not to give this egg to you. I want it for myself. No, I want it. Lin's expression changed, and he immediately made up his mind. My God, I went through so many hardships and spent so much gold just to get this egg. I can't let it slip away just like that. Bai Ling burst into laughter as her eyes shimmered. You're the kind of person who only knows how to be honest. Don't worry, Black Spirit Snake isn't that petty. If the phoenix egg truly accepts her as its master, then she can only accept it. She won't do anything like murder or robbery. That's her bottom line. Lin nodded. He had an inexplicable encounter with Black Spirit Snake in the past, and he knew that she wasn't the type to do whatever she wanted just because she was powerful. She should be able to reason with him. She should be able to do that. A wisp of divine intent traveled into his mind. This was a spell formation regarding how to tame the phoenix and make it accept her as its master. Lin crawled out from the coffin and carefully pulled out the phoenix egg from the white fox divine box before inscribing a spell formation onto the golden egg according to the instructions given to him by Bai Ling. After inscribing, the golden egg began to glow with an even more dazzling light, as if it were surging with restlessness. At the same time, an extremely terrifying aura began to proliferate through the air, as if an extremely fearsome primordial beast was slowly awakening. Lin withstood the pressure and made a hand seal to form a beast pet contract before dripping a drop of blood essence onto the phoenix egg. Sizzle. The blood essence was absorbed by the golden egg, and the dazzling light around the egg dimmed as its aura also began to recede. An indistinct connection was established between Lin and the golden egg. Within his sea of vital energy, the white vermilion bird let loose a joyful cry, as if it was celebrating something. And Kieran yawned as he sat on the little whale's head. He stared at the excited vermilion bird with a confused expression, wondering if it had taken the wrong medicine. And Lin blinked at the suddenly unresponsive golden egg. That's it. Bai Ling nodded. That's it. Now we just have to wait for it to hatch. How do we hatch it? Can we roast it with our divine flames? And Lin asked with a curious expression. Bai Ling's eyes widened. Are you crazy? That's an egg. Dabai was also astonished. Big brother, and do you want this little phoenix to follow in the footsteps of our fourth brother? Woof. And Lin scratched his head. Aren't phoenixes supposed to be reborn from the ashes? I was wondering if I could feed it a fire. Bai Ling, please stop with your stupid thoughts. Dongwu grasped another important point. What is this fourth brother you're talking about? Lin and Dabai fell silent upon hearing this. This was an unbearable past, so they should just let it go with the wind. Big brother in Little Na is ranked 5th, and Little Tion is ranked 6th. Does that mean this phoenix is ranked 7th? Woof. Dabai chimed in. That's right. And Lin's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but fantasize. I finally have a 7th beast pet. 7 bottle gourd brothers. Grandpa, let's go catch the snake spirit. Woof woof. Dabai's eyes were wide open as it stuck out its tongue. When it had descended into the mortal world with Lin, it had seen the story of 7 men and a beautiful woman, so it had also gotten into character. All right, where's the snake spirit? I have to teach her a lesson. And Lin spoke in a deep voice, imitating the voice of an elderly man to perfection. Grandpa, isn't the snake spirit on that flying rock over there? Woof. A sly smile appeared on Dabai's face as he turned toward Bai Ling. Amazing. There really is an elderly man, 7 bottle gore brothers, and a snake spirit. And Lin was astonished as he stared at the departing woman. Bai Ling, for some reason, and Lin and Dabai suddenly felt a chill run down their spines. There was killing intent. Dongwu's mouth gaped open as he looked at the two of them, only to discover that he was the only one being ignored. No one was paying attention to what he had just said. He pulled his clothes tighter around his body as a dejected expression appeared on his face. This world was far too cold and cruel. He couldn't feel even a hint of warmth. Big brother, and what name do you think we should give the phoenix? Woof. Dabai was forced to change the subject by the killing intent. That's a question. Is Little Feng better or Little Huang better? And Lin stroked his chin in deep thought. That's too casual, Bai Ling interjected. All right, how about Little Huang? Yellow as in yellow. And Lin's eyes lit up as a thought occurred to him. Bai Ling, Dabai, are you sure you're not raising a dog? Dongwu was astonished. The mighty mythological phoenix was being referred to as Little Huang. His outlook on cultivation had been refreshed once again. Chapter 729. And Lin glared at Dongwu. What are you talking about? Wasn't Dongwu implying that Little Huang was a bad name? I think he's right, Bai Ling said expressionlessly. I also think he's right, Woof. Dabai raised a paw in agreement. Not every color-based name is as simple and elegant as Dabai's. And Lin felt like he was being looked down upon by everyone. He placed the phoenix egg back into the white fox divine box before strapping it onto his back again. And Lin lay down in the blood-soul jade coffin again before activating his evergreen technique to digest the essence of the immortal pill in order to recover from his injuries. Bai Ling also continued to fight for control of the research institute. Even though there wasn't much hope left, she still had to try. What if she got lucky? Even though luck wasn't a very important factor in things like this, even though Black Spirit Snake had relinquished control of the heavenly Tao, her influence in this world was still very deep. Bai Ling was feeling a little bitter, but she couldn't do anything about it. She silently turned her gaze to the man who was still cultivating with his eyes closed, and a faint smile appeared on her face. It was as bright and beautiful as the spring breeze. She had placed all her hopes on Lin for no reason. So even someone as rational as her could do irrational things. However, there was still an indescribable sense of anticipation in her heart. Perhaps it was because of the peculiar fate between Lin and the Purple Star, or perhaps it was because Lin didn't choose to run away from the Gundam and the demonic baby. In any case, she had decided to take a gamble. Time slowly passed by within this tranquil space. Outside, a storm was already brewing. Celestial Maiden, Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi, and Bai Pengzi stared at one another as a tense, and exasperated atmosphere permeated through the air. They were unable to enter the bronze gate, and even space had been cut off, so they could only stand outside with blank expressions on their faces. Duan Hunzi tried to use his ghostly apparition to enter the gate from underground, only to discover that aside from this gate, the entire gate was enshrouded in a special type of metal. It was like a huge box without any gaps. It was an impenetrable iron wall. What else could they do? They could only wait for the hair to come to them. If Lin entered through the door, he would have to come out through the door, right? He couldn't possibly stay in there forever, right? The temptation of the phoenix egg was simply too great. So even under these circumstances, the three Return of Void stage mighty figures were still unwilling to leave. Looks like this is the core of this world. How enviable. I wonder what kind of opportunities little brother and Lin can obtain inside. An envious expression appeared on Fei Ying's face, but she was also secretly keeping a wary eye on the two people beside her. It doesn't matter what kind of opportunity he obtained. I just want his egg, Bai Pengzi said calmly. TSK. A useless bird like you wants to use a phoenix egg to fly to the top of a tree and become a phoenix? Aren't you overestimating yourself a little too much? The phoenix egg belongs to the life-harvesting sect, and I've recently attained the smile of the death god, so my luck is on the rise. Duan Hunzi chortled with glee as he materialized a comical face for Bai Pengzi to see. Bai Pengzi's expression darkened, and the atmosphere instantly plummeted to a freezing point as killing intent swept through the air. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying silently retreated a few steps. If it weren't for the fact that I have to conserve my energy to deal with Lin, you wouldn't even be able to smile anymore, Bai Pengzi said in a cold voice. They would attack as soon as Lin appeared, and that was not going to change. All three Return to Void stage mighty figures knew what to do and what not to do. They weren't going to fight here and allow someone else to take advantage of them. The four-man gang was reduced to a three-man gang. Shuang Yukong didn't go to find Lin. Even though he had sensed an extremely powerful clash of energy, he still didn't go to the place where the battle had erupted. Drip, drip, scorching green liquid dripped down from the metal ceiling, but it pierced through the rock formation and left an inky black hole in the ground. Shuang Yukong's heart was beating faster and faster. His heart was throbbing, and there was a sense of excitement mixed with fear. It was too thrilling. He passed through the winding passageway and arrived at a spacious place that was unbearably scorching. All of the rock formations here flowed like liquid, and the golden liquid was bubbling as a dazzling green light shone in the distance. This is it. Shuang Yukong's eyes lit up as he flew toward the green light. His field of vision expanded further and further. This seemed to be the energy center of the divine mountain. Violent energy swept through the air, and the terrifying aura emanating from this place made it difficult to breathe. The green light grew larger and larger, and Shuang Yukong finally caught a glimpse of the green light that had drawn him here, upon which he drew a sharp intake of breath. He was greeted by the sight of a gargantuan creature over 10,000 feet tall. It had 3 gargantuan heads, which consisted of a human head, a phoenix head, and a dragon head. It also had 6 peculiar arms, 2 of which held swords, 2 of which were red arms that were covered in feathers, and 2 of which were covered in purple scales. Its claws were like sharp scimitars. There was a pair of white bone wings on its back that glowed with a golden light. There was black lightning revolving around its 2 white legs, and the terrifying power emanating from them seemed to be able to shatter space itself. The green light enshrouding the monster's body didn't seem to be strengthening it. Instead, it seemed to be suppressing the gargantuan creature's power. Shuang Yukong's breathing accelerated, and his mind was a complete mess. Why? Why did he come here? He had been guided here by some unseen force. But was this really an opportunity? What was the use of this gargantuan creature to him? Shuang Yukong was extremely nervous as he stared at the gargantuan creature in the distance. A hesitant expression appeared on his face, and he didn't know whether he should continue onward or leave. Judging from its vital signs, it seems to be a living creature, but it seems to be in a dormant state where it's been sealed away by some kind of power, such a powerful life form. Its organs must be very valuable, right? Shuang Yukong's eyes began to burn with passion, and for some reason, desire began to take over his body, especially that golden ball on its chest. If it was made into a weapon, it would at least be a high-rank, immortal tool. He murmured to himself as his body involuntarily flew toward the monster. I want it so much his desire grew explosively, as if he had lost all rationality. Boom! Shuang Yukong crashed into the green halo of light, and a ringing sound erupted in his head. In that instant, he came back to his senses, and his expression shifted drastically as he stared at the 3 gargantuan heads that were inches away from him. No matter how stupid he was, he could tell that something was amiss at a time like this. Run. He had to run. He tore open a spatial rift without hesitation and tried to escape. Crack. Space was sealed, and a terrifying power that was powerful enough to crush all things in heaven and earth began to proliferate. Shuang Yukong's body trembled uncontrollably, but his body was completely immobilized. The human head among the 3 gargantuan heads suddenly opened its crimson eyes and cackled. Chapter 730. Shuang Yukong almost lost his composure in the face of this terrifying might, but he was a veteran returned to Void Stage mighty figure who had been through countless battles, so he unleashed all of his trump cards without hesitation. Transit Sun Heavenly Shield. Ethereal Flash. Divine Symbol of Life. Explosive divine lightning crackled around Shuang Yukong's body as he attempted to tear through the spatial seal. The Transit Sun Heavenly Shield stood behind him, releasing an extremely powerful energy barrier. So hungry, the human head muttered, its scarlet eyes glaring once more. The space within a radius of 10,000 zhong began to distort into a vortex. Under the terrifying spatial distortion, the celestial towering sun shield instantly shattered. Pua! Shuang Yukong threw up a mouthful of blood, following which he let out a heart-wrenching cry. Bang! His body was finally crushed by the terrifying power of space. Flesh and blood scattered in the air, and a terrifying suction force pulled them into the giant human head's mouth, where they were quickly chewed. Why is this smell so weird? Did I eat a fake return to Void Stage life form? The human head chewed with a perplexed expression. At that moment, the dragon head suddenly opened its golden eyes, as if it could see through all the illusions in the world. Stupid C** and T, you really did eat a fake return to Void Stage mighty figure, the dragon head said. Crack! Rumble! A bolt of golden lightning shot out from the dragon's horn and struck somewhere in the void, causing a series of violent ripples. A figure appeared with a bloody hole in his abdomen. The figure that had appeared was none other than Shuang Yukong, who had been revived by the divine talisman of life. Shuang Yukong fled into the distance with a horrified expression. The enemy was too terrifying, too strong. Even returned to Void final stage mighty figures were unable to see through the divine talisman of life's spatial power, but had been seen through with a single glance. The existence he was facing was far more powerful than him. As he was fleeing, the space around him suddenly turned into a boundless sea of fire. Shuang Yukong's expression changed drastically. He unleashed all the power of ice to defend himself, but the terrifying flames swept toward him with unstoppable force, instantly shattering his defenses and engulfing his body. The screams reverberated throughout the entire space, yet not in this space. Burp! The phoenix head suddenly burped as a satisfied smile appeared on its face. Bitch! How dare you use the devouring divine ability to steal my food? The dragon head was furious. Why are you scolding me? The human head asked with an aggrieved expression. Phoenix head, stupid C** and T. The dragon head glared at the human head. Was I scolding you? The human head wore an aggrieved expression. B** TCH. Aren't I the only one here? The phoenix head opened its eyes, which were like the sun, and said in a slow voice, "You're not alone." "That's right, I still have you." The human head said happily. "No, I'm saying that you're not alone." The phoenix head said with a serious expression. The human head was confused. "Idiot." The dragon head couldn't help but curse again. The human head wore an aggrieved expression. "All right, stop arguing." The phoenix head's voice was neither too fast nor too slow, but it was as if it were the voice of a powerful being. "In any case, you should be thanking me for helping you eat." "Thank you, brother phone." The human head wore a grateful expression. The dragon head couldn't take it anymore. "Idiot." Phoenix head. To the north of the Phoenix Research Institute was a gargantuan mountain. At the summit of the mountain, there was a place that resembled an immortal realm. Immortal clouds swirled around this place, and there were countless beautiful flowers in full bloom. At the center of a sea of flowers, there was a pristine white palace. It was enshrouded in rainbow light, isolating it from all other things. "Are you sure that's the exit?" Tina pointed at the rippling gate with a slender finger. Xiao Zhe replied with an expression that seemed to have seen through everything. "Of course. That palace isn't very big, right? However, that gate is extremely large, and it's completely out of proportion. Also, what kind of gate would have spatial ripples flowing through it? Hence, the palace is fake, but the gate is real. It's a gate that connects the two worlds." Tina felt like this made a lot of sense. Furthermore, this mountain was clearly no ordinary mountain. If there was an extraordinary gate on an extraordinary mountain, then that gate had to be special. There was nothing wrong with this reasoning. I can sense that Master is nearby, but he's been isolated by something, so I can't sense his exact location. I feel like this gate must be the thing that's isolating our senses. Xiao Zhe analyzed. I have the same feeling as well. I can sense that Master is nearby, but I don't know where he is. I think he's probably waiting for us outside the gate. Tina grinned. After establishing a master-disciple contract and a beast-pet contract, they would be able to sense each other's auras and locations within a certain range. However, this type of detection was being isolated by some kind of mysterious power, which meant that there had to be some kind of barrier between them. This spatial gate was most likely that barrier. Then what are we waiting for? Break this barrier as hard as you can. Xiao Zhe encouraged. If Master can break this barrier and get out of here, then we can definitely do it too. All right. Tina's expression became grave as she began to gather energy. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, lightning exploded and holy light rumbled. The two returned to Void Stage mighty figures unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks upon the rainbow barrier of the White Palace, causing the sky to tumble and tumble as hundreds of smiley faces around them were pulverized by the fearsome power of their attacks. At the same time, within the White Palace, there was a black ball rotating at high speed. An exquisitely beautiful woman with the tail of a snake and the body of a human raised her eyebrows slightly. Which idiot was attacking her mansion's spell formation relentlessly? If it weren't for the fact that she still had to fight by Ling for control of this world, she would have already bashed those two kids into submission. That's right, she was Black Spirit Snake's true body. Her clone had seen Enlin before, and she had tried to trick Enlin into falling into her trap so that she could take the opportunity to steal his phoenix egg. However, not only did she lose the phoenix egg, but even the demonic baby who had been tasked with disrupting Bai Ling's rhythm was also subdued. If that were the case, then so be it. She still had the upper hand. However, there were suddenly two return to Void Stage mighty figures attacking her mansion. What was going on? Unfortunately, she had only created one clone before her battle with Bai Ling, and it had been blasted by Bai Ling. Now that this was a critical moment, there was no way for her to warn them. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. The two returned to Void Stage mighty figures seemed to be very patient as they continued to bombard the barrier. Black Spirit Snake was enraged. What the F*** CK was wrong with these two? Couldn't they see that this was a mansion? This was a personal territory. Master had even set up a Do Not Disturb spell formation. What the F asterisk CK were those two nut jobs trying to do by bombing someone else's spell formation? This was an illegal disturbance. Did they know the law? However, unbeknownst to Black Spirit Snake, Tina and Xiao Zhe had already imagined the gate to the mansion to be the gate to the outside world. The two of them were fighting for their freedom. Chapter 731. Black Spirit Snake was very annoyed by them, but she knew that there was no way these returned to Void Stage mighty figures who had yet to attain the power of the Divine Tao would be able to break through her spell formation. They were just a little noisy, and the energy fluctuations were a little annoying. Break through the defenses of her mansion? No way. Outside the mansion, Tina and Xiao Zhe were finally getting tired after unleashing a relentless barrage of spell techniques. They panted heavily as they swallowed a blood spirit pill. This can't do. Who would have thought that this barrier would be so powerful? Is this really the exit? Why would they use such a powerful barrier to block our way? It's not really just a house that's being protected, is it? Tina was sweating profusely, and she was already beginning to doubt the validity of Xiao Zhe's deduction. Even though Black Spirit Snake couldn't move, she could still hear the conversation going on outside. She was extremely touched by Tina's words. Thank God, one of them wasn't an idiot. Did they finally think of this? Did you know? Some mighty figures like to do this. Xiao Zhe spoke with a serious expression. They've lived for too long, and everything they do is boring. They want to trap a group of people in this world, then set up all types of monsters to deal with those people in order to amuse themselves. Mighty figures like them can't bear to see us leave, so they've blocked off the exit. Tina covered her mouth with her hand. What a freak. Black Spirit Snake's body swayed slightly, and she almost threw up a mouthful of blood. You're the freak. Your whole family is a freak. This wave of emotional stimulation caused even Black Spirit Snake's control over this world to falter, thereby allowing Bai Ling to hang on for a while longer. Black Spirit Snake couldn't help but curse in her heart upon realizing this. Tina paused momentarily before speaking in the end. I didn't want to use this technique, but I feel like I have to use my trump card now. We'll definitely be able to break through this turtle shell this time. A cold smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she thought to herself, with the power of these fairies and dragons, I'll be able to keep them at bay for another day and night. Tina turned to Xiao Zhe. After using this technique, I'll be completely exhausted. I'll be leaving Giant and Lin to you. Xiao Zhe nodded with a solemn expression. Don't worry, I'll protect Master. Speaking of which, do you really have a chance to break through this barrier? What can I do for you? To be honest, the toughness of this protective wall was beyond Xiao's capabilities. It was exactly because of this that he was skeptical about Tina's ability to break through the wall. Don't worry, this is the latest God-tier spell that I've come up with. It's called the Wall-Piercing Divine Finger. Tina's eyes shimmered with an ethereal light as she pointed a finger at the translucent rainbow spell formation. All of a sudden, the world seemed to have come to a standstill, leaving only a flickering finger. Black Spirit Snake's expression suddenly shifted drastically. This is Rumble. Golden light flooded the world, bringing with it a power that could pierce through a world. It was as if a golden sun had appeared on the gigantic mountain. Then there was the sound of something shattering. A beam of golden light pierced through the sky, illuminating the entire world. The golden light dissipated, and the little fairy fell powerlessly into Xiao's arms. Xiao stared at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape, dumbfounded. Little Na, are you trying to F***CK the heavens with that finger of yours? It's pretty powerful, right? The barrier has been broken, right? Tina forced herself to stay awake as she murmured to herself. Xiao nodded slowly. It has been broken. Tina heaved a sigh of relief. Not only has the barrier been broken, but the gate that connects the two worlds has also been broken by your finger. Xiao continued. Tina sat up with an expression of shock on her face. All of her drowsiness instantly vanished, and she turned around to look behind her. That's right, the rainbow barrier had already been shattered, and the massive gate had also been reduced to rubble by a single finger. What had also been reduced to rubble was the beautiful white palace. Then a young lady in ragged clothes, who was touching a big black ball, was looking at him with a frosty expression. Tina, Xiaoza, why do I feel like we've made a mistake? She's such a beautiful big sister, but I can sense from her eyes that she wants to slice us into pieces. Tina spoke with difficulty. An awkward expression appeared on Xiaoza's face. I also feel like this is a beautiful misunderstanding, Black Spirit Snake. Hee hee. Xiaoza was struck by an indescribable sense of horror, and he immediately transformed into a dragon with Tina in his arms. Run! Boom! Black energy obscured the entire sky. Following the golden sun that had appeared on the mountain, now night had descended. Many of the cultivators scattered throughout the mystic realm looked up into the sky. Even though they were extremely far away, they could still sense a terrifying aura, and it seemed to be accompanied by the blood-curdling wails of dragons. The night faded, and a few comical faces could be seen hovering in the hazy sky. A gargantuan black dragon fell from the summit of a mountain, and countless bloodied scales rained down from its body. Xiaoza threw up a large mouthful of blood, and his body trembled uncontrollably as he looked up at the summit. He had truly experienced the feeling of death just then. If it weren't for the fact that there was something restricting that woman's power, he would have most likely died there. Xiaoza opened his palm, and he heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing Tina lying there unscathed. All in all, they had managed to survive. However, both of them were pretty much crippled, and they had to find a place to recover. Xiaoza continued to fly into the distance. No matter what, he was not going to get close to that mountain. The further, the better. Within a sealed space within the gargantuan mountain, Bai Ling was just about to put up a final resistance when she suddenly detected a peculiar energy fluctuation. There was an opening. She immediately grasped that moment of weakness and began to launch a fierce counterattack. I didn't think that Black Spirit Snake would make such a stupid mistake. Is she retarded? Bai Ling couldn't help but chortle with glee as she waved her slender hands through the air. And Lin was quite curious upon seeing this. Did something happen to Black Spirit Snake? That's right. I don't know what's gotten into her, but she's suddenly foregoing all control over her body. Could it be that her house exploded? Even though it was only for a split second, it was enough for me to turn the tables. Bai Ling spoke with a dainty smile. She was clearly in a good mood. A joyful smile also appeared on Lin's face. He had only met Black Spirit Snake once, so he was naturally more inclined toward Bai Ling. He was genuinely happy that Bai Ling had a chance of becoming the ruler of this world. Black Spirit Snake definitely wouldn't make such a huge move for no reason. Something must have happened in the outside world. Bai Ling spoke in a more objective manner this time. Perhaps this is fate? And Lin chuckled. No matter who did this, I just have to say, well done. What a godly assist. Chapter 732. Black Spirit Snake was so depressed that she was about to throw up blood. Never would she have thought that the defenses of her mansion would really be broken, and even her mansion would be reduced to rubble. Even her clothes had been torn to shreds. How the F***ck was she supposed to tolerate this? Those two nut jobs had to die. Even though there were important matters that she had to attend to, she still attacked those two nut jobs in a fit of rage. However, the consequences of this were extremely severe. Even a split second of carelessness could change the course of the battle. Right now, she was on the back foot in her battle against Bai Ling. Black Spirit Snake was so depressed. Why the F***ck did these two nut jobs suddenly appear? That little fairy had even mentioned Giant and Lin. Were they sent by Lin? And Lin, I'll remember this. Black Spirit Snake gritted her teeth as she spoke with a frosty expression that was as cold as the glaciers that had been frozen for ages. Within the Bronze Gate, Lin had already recovered from his injuries, and he lent the coffin to Donghua to treat his injuries again. It had to be said that Lin's recovery rate was extremely terrifying with the help of an immortal pill, an immortal tool, and his body of the war god. Lin, I can control most of the things in the Research Institute now. There are 3 return to Void Stage mighty figures waiting for you outside the Bronze Gate, so you have to be careful, Bai Ling cautioned. Lin sat down with his legs crossed. That's all right. We'll go out together after you're done, and then we'll slaughter those arrogant **stards outside. Bai Ling's eyes narrowed with a smile. You sure are a pushover. How are you so sure that I'll help you beat them up? Of course, what kind of friendship do we have? We're comrades who have gone through life and death situations together. And Lin replied with a nonchalant expression. Hee hee, you sure know how to suck up to me. A smile appeared on Bai Ling's face as she continued. Have you repaired that Gundam you snatched from Black Spirit Snake? No, I don't have any more spirit stones in my storage ring. Only then did Lin recall that the pitiful Gundam 3 was still lying in his storage ring in tatters without any spirit stones to repair itself. Weren't you quite rich in the past? Bai Ling was a little surprised to see Lin. And Lin sighed. They've all been converted into fixed assets. He turned to Dong Guo as he spoke, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. WH, what are you doing? Dong Guo was extremely flustered, and Lin made his way over to the coffin and placed his hands on the coffin lid as he looked into Dong Guo's eyes. I and Lin want to borrow money. Dong Guo, in the face of Lin's tyranny, Dong Guo had to offer up his spirit stones with tears streaming down his face. He was extremely flustered. Wasn't Lin going to return the money he borrowed? And Lin was so rich, he should be able to pay it back. Unknowingly, 2 hours had passed. Dong Guo had also returned to full health, and the three of them silently awaited Bai Ling's victory. Outside the Bronze Gate, the three returned to Void Stage mighty figures were surprisingly patient, and they still stood there in silence. On the plateau to the west of the Mystic Realm, Su Wenjun flew toward the Gargantuan Mountain with Lu Qianhuan and Su Qianyan in tow. To the northeast of the Mystic Realm, General Long Kuei wielded her golden spear and transformed into a streak of golden light as she chased after the heavenly demon sex Taoist Yulang. Ms. Long Kuei, that immortal herb is yours, and I'm not taking it anymore, so why are you still chasing me? Taoist Yulang was in an extremely sorry state as he spoke to the ferocious woman in front of him. The heavenly demon sect has committed all sorts of evil deeds in the Purple Star State, so I'm here to kill you and rid the heavenly demon sect of its scourge. Long Kuei's voice was clear as she waved her golden spear through the air, and a series of golden dragons roared with rage as they flew toward Taoist Yulang. Taoist Yulang cursed as he unleashed his movement techniques in a frenzy of evasion. He wasn't a match for Long Kuei in battle, but he was very confident in his ability to escape. What was the most important thing for a demonic cultivator? It wasn't violence or cruelty, nor was it the ability to escape. Instead, it was the ability to escape. After all, demonic cultivators who had the ability to commit evil deeds, but not the ability to escape, were doomed sooner or later. As such, escaping was a compulsory skill for all demonic cultivators. Taoist Yulang had been committing evil deeds for over 10,000 years, and his ability to escape was top tier even among return to Void Stage mighty figures. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to survive for so long. There's a huge mountain up ahead. Not a good place to conceal my aura. I'll use a mystic technique to increase my speed and temporarily open up some distance before concealing my aura and hiding in the mountain. That way, Long Kuei won't be able to find me. Taoist Yulang made up his mind, and he began to accelerate toward the huge mountain. At the summit of the huge mountain, Black Spirit Snake seemed to have detected some kind of peculiar energy fluctuation. Her brows perked up slightly as she used her limited authority to peer into the mountain. Not long after that, her expression shifted drastically, and she immediately transmitted a message to Bai Ling. Within the Bronze Gate, a peculiar expression appeared on Bai Ling's face upon receiving this message. What is it? And Lin asked upon seeing the peculiar expression on Bai Ling's face. Black Spirit Snake wants me to relinquish control of this world to her. She says she has something urgent to take care of, Bai Ling replied. And Lin's lips twitched. Could it be that she knows she's about to lose, so she's trying to regain control of this world through this method? Bai Ling shook her head. She says she concedes. However, we have to let her use this authority for a while first. Do you trust her? And Lin asked. This was only a verbal promise, so if Black Spirit Snake went back on her word, Bai Ling wouldn't be able to retaliate. Bai Ling clearly hesitated momentarily before receiving another short message. Urgent, 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 urgent. Give up control of this world. Trust me. Sigh. Bai Ling heaved a faint sigh. So be it. I'll trust her. She put down her hands from the white ball and removed the blue barrier of light. The white sphere's light dimmed, and everything returned to silence. Bai Ling leaped down from the floating rock as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Let's go, Enlin. Enlin didn't say anything as he followed Bai Ling out the door. Thump. Enlin's heart suddenly thumped violently, as if it had been struck by some kind of indescribable force. Immediately afterward, rumble. The mountain suddenly began to tremor violently. This was no longer a simple earthquake. This was the quaking of mountains and rivers toppling over, as if the entire mountain was going to be torn to shreds. Look out! Bai Ling turned around before unleashing a white light that enshrouded Enlin, Donghua, and Dabai within. Boom! A streak of black light sliced through heaven and earth, slicing the gargantuan mountain in half. Immediately afterward, a rainbow energy suddenly erupted from within the mountain. It was like a divine light of annihilation as it swept through the world, destroying everything in its path. The gargantuan mountain began to crumble in the face of this terrifying power. Roar! Wah! That was awesome, huh? 3 different voices reverberated between heaven and earth. Chapter 733. The gargantuan mountain crumbled into pieces, and a monster with an extremely terrifying aura leaped out from the center of the mountain. This was a monster with 3 heads and 6 arms, and it had a pair of huge bony wings on its back as it soared through the air. The almost indestructible sealed metal space was blasted open by a certain force. Bai Ling held a white ball in her hand, and a halo of light enshrouded Enlin and the others as they flew toward the foot of the mountain. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were in quite a sorry state. There was a gash on Fei Ying's pretty face, and there were also a few gashes on her waist and legs, giving her a very disheveled appearance. One of Bai Pengzi's arms had even been obliterated by the explosion, and he didn't even have time to react. One of Duan Hunzi's legs had also been crippled, and he sat on his comical face as he fled into the distance. The 3-headed monster was only standing in midair, but its aura made all of the return to void stage mighty figures feel like they were suffocating. Phew ha! The air outside is so fresh. The human head chortled with glee. After being trapped for 10,000 years, we can finally come out. Who would have thought that the seal would suddenly become so weak? And we have delicious food to replenish our energy. The dragon head sighed with emotion. This is the will of the heavens. I have to come out when I have to, the phoenix head said in a slow voice. The human head looked at all of the fleeing mighty figures with a scorching light in its eyes. Is it also the will of the heavens for those return to void stage mighty figures to appear before us? Of course. The phoenix head nodded. Boom. Heaven and earth rumbled as the space within a radius of 150 kilometers was instantly sealed. The phoenix head opened its eyes, which were like miniature suns, and a golden barrier instantly enshrouded an area within a radius of over 50 kilometers, trapping all of the living beings within it. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were all dumbstruck. What kind of experience was it to be targeted by an indescribably terrifying being? All 3 of their bodies had turned to jelly. Su Wenjun and the others who had just arrived near the mountain were also dumbfounded. Su Qinyan's body shuddered slightly as she spoke in a mellow voice. It looks like we came at a bad time. She took a deep breath. We've only just left the novice village, and you're already giving me a max-level boss? Player's sister, Daoist Yulang, who was being pursued by Long Kuei, was also dumbstruck. Didn't they say they were going to escape into the mountains? Damn it, even the mountains have been blown up. Escape my ass. Also, what was up with that monster with an extremely terrifying aura? Why is it smiling at me? Daoist Yulang felt like he had fallen into a wolf's den before he had even escaped from the tiger's den. This situation was terrifying. Long Kuei faltered slightly at the sight of the 3-headed, six-armed monster before giving up on her pursuit of Taoist Yulang and fleeing in another direction. She cursed endlessly in her heart. King Rainwolf, I've been chasing you all this way, but you've led me into a tiger's den. Fate was such a wonderful thing. A group of mighty beings happened to be near the huge mountain, and then they were trapped in a space with a radius of 300 miles by that terrifying monster with a barrier becoming its meal. Su Wenjun gathered all of his power into a single point and blasted it at the golden barrier. However, it only caused a slight ripple and showed no signs of cracking. He was in despair. Was this King spell technique unleashed by a return to Void Stage Mighty Figure? Could it be a Dao Integration Stage Mighty Figure? Bai Ling led Lin to the foot of the mountain before unleashing a spell technique to conceal their auras. Perhaps it was due to the fact that her spell technique was quite advanced, but the monster did not notice them. Holy CK. 3 heads and 6 arms? Is this our hero Little Najah? Lin was astonished. Bai Ling rolled her eyes. You're still in a mood to joke around at a time like this? Speaking of which, did Black Spirit Snake ask for your authority just so she could release this monster? Lin asked. Bai Ling, all right, she's probably trying to suppress this monster, right? But why isn't she doing anything now? Did you just give her authority for nothing? Lin asked. She's most likely preparing some kind of spell technique. Bai Ling paused momentarily before replying to Lin's question. I have some recollection of this monster. It's a failed Dao integration stage creature known as the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. It was created by fusing the bloodlines of a phoenix mythological beast, a Dao integration stage true dragon, and a true god, and by seizing the Dao of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, the experiment to create this Dao integration stage creature failed, and it went on a rampage, which was why it was sealed here by the purple star. Gasp! Dong withdrew a sharp intake of breath, and he stammered. They can even create Dao integration stage creatures. Lin and Dabai faltered slightly upon hearing this. Lin spoke with a hesitant expression. I recall that Shunin once encountered a failed Dao integration stage creature, the Godfian Celestial of the Six Paths. Oh, that's part of the Purple Star's dark history. I'm so sorry for bringing disaster to this continent, Sai. A hint of shame appeared on Bai Ling's face as she heaved a forlorn sigh. Waves of shock surged through Lin and the others' hearts upon hearing this. Wasn't the Purple Star civilization a little too terrifying? Just a failed product had almost destroyed the Dragon Court. Now, another one had appeared? Just how many of these monsters were out there? Bai Ling continued. Black Spirit Snake is a Dao integration stage super mighty figure to begin with. She doesn't want to subdue the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial through brute force. She clearly wants to use her authority to seal the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial into a mountain so that she can continue her research. And Lin scratched his head. This world is going to be yours from now on. So how is she going to continue her research on the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial? Bai Ling slammed her fist in her palm with a blank expression. That's right. What is she going to do? Lin, Bai Ling, is there something wrong? Bai Ling was a little aggrieved. It's all right, big sister Bai. I feel like Black Spirit Snake will keep her promise. Lin offered words of consolation. However, any consolation was completely useless in the face of such a dire situation. Even Lin didn't believe her own words of consolation. A black figure slowly appeared in the extremely high heavens above. Black Spirit Snake wore a golden crown on her head, and her features were cold and aloof. Her eyes were inky black, as if they were two bottomless pits. She extended a pristine, white arm into the air, and a massive golden sword was slowly pulled out from her grasp amid a burst of ripples. This was the divine tool, the realm creation evil vanquishing sword. It'll take some time to activate this divine tool. I hope you can hold on. She spoke in a soft voice as she turned toward Bai Ling. Her lips parted, and a series of enchanting syllables erupted from her mouth, reverberating through the air like celestial music. The massive sword slowly began to crack open, and the cracks appeared to be some kind of peculiar beauty. Huh, That human has an aura that I'm interested in. It's the aura of darkness. The human head's crimson eyes lit up as it chuckled at the fleeing Taoist Yulang. Chapter 734. Taoist Yulang was scared sh**less. He didn't think that he would become the first target of such a powerful being. He fled for his life with all his might, but the two massive crimson eyes behind him were like the eyes of the Grim Reaper, and they had already determined that he was going to die. Taoist Yulang couldn't take it anymore. He turned around and landed on the ground like a ferocious tiger. Splat! He sprawled onto the ground as he yelled, "Senior, I didn't mean to offend you. Please spare me. I'm willing to pledge my life to you. I'll do anything you want me to do." That's right. He had realized that he was going to die for sure. Evil cultivators had a second life-saving ability, which was to become their enemy's lackey. Since such a powerful super being was born, there should at least be some henchmen around to keep up appearances, right? At the very least, a super mighty figure didn't need to do things like stomping ants to death. That would be beneath them, so they could just leave that to their lackeys. Hence, it was a must to recruit a few lackeys. Taoist Yulang was a return to void stage mighty figure, and he was the first lackey of this super mighty figure, so he would definitely be treated better, right? Perhaps he would even be more impressive than before. Sure enough, the three-headed, six-armed monster's body faltered slightly. "Huh? He wants to be our lackey. What do you think?" the human head asked. Taoist Yulang was ecstatic. There was a chance for him to survive. The dragon head replied expressionlessly. "Him? He's too weak. It would be beneath us to use a weakling like him." Taoist Yulang almost threw up a mouthful of blood. "I'm weak. Becoming your lackey would be beneath us? Who do you think you are?" The phoenix head asked in a calm voice. "What's a lackey? Is it edible?" The human head scratched its head with its sword before replying hesitantly. "It should be edible. Even though my identity has changed, the life essence of a return to void stage mighty figure is still present." Stupid C***NT. The dragon head snapped. Taoist Yulang's body trembled with fear. "All right, you can be my lackey." The human head chuckled. Overjoyed, Taoist Yulang hurriedly bowed once more and said, "I, Taoist Yulang, will do anything for you." The human head nodded with elation. "Then the first thing is for you to fly into my mouth and eat me. I'm a little hungry." After saying that, the scarlet eyes on the giant head shone with a demonic light, and a complacent expression appeared on its face. "What do you think? I'm very smart, aren't I? I made him our underling first, then ordered him to become our food. That way, we'll be able to eat a return to void stage mighty figure without any effort." The human head chuckled. Taoist Yulang, the dragon head, "Idiot!" The phoenix head heaved a faint sigh. "Let's eat more brains next time." Taoist Yulang was scared out of his wits, and he immediately turned around to flee. Wolf claws appeared on his hands and feet, and he clung to the ground like a wolf as he fled, covering a distance of 5 kilometers with each step he took. Secret skill, Heavenly Wolf Steps. The human head was enraged upon seeing this. "Hey, didn't you say you'd be willing to go through fire and water and die 1,000 deaths as my underling? How come you can't even die once after being eaten by us? You're not keeping your word." Taoist Yulang cursed loudly when he heard this. Die 1,000 deaths? People could only die once. Was this B** start a stupid C***NT? Stupid C***NT, the dragon head cursed. Taoist Yulang's lips twitched. However, in the next instant, he was greeted by the sight of boundless flames sweeping toward him. The vast space between heaven and earth was instantly transformed into a perilous realm. This was a perilous realm of flames with no way out. Flames with no end in sight. Energy with no limit in sight. From the perspective of Lin and the others, the phoenix head turned toward the fleeing Taoist Yulang before exhaling gently. A wisp of golden flames grew larger and larger before piercing through the air and enshrouding Taoist Yulang. In the next instant, Taoist Yulang disappeared. However, Taoist Yulang's blood-curdling cries erupted from the Holy Trinity Fian Celestial's stomach. His cries were extremely anguished and made everyone's hearts clench involuntarily. Soon the cries died down. He had probably died. All of the mighty figures present felt their legs give out from under them as their hearts trembled with fear. One had to realize that they were about as powerful as Taoist Yulang. Yet Taoist Yulang had been insta-killed just like that. How could they fare? This is the power of the divine Tao. It's the perfect fusion of the Tao of fire and the Tao of space. Su Wenjun's voice trembled as he spoke. Burp. The phoenix head burped. You again. You're stealing my food again. The human head turned to the phoenix head with an aggrieved expression. How could you say that? I'm helping you eat. Don't forget that we share the same stomach and the same dream. The phoenix head spoke in a slow voice. Hurry up and thank me. Thank you. The human head seemed to have come to its senses again as it expressed its gratitude. Stupid. The dragon head was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse when its eyes suddenly turned toward a certain direction as a sinister smile appeared on its face. Hee hee. So many beautiful chicks. I want them all. The human head turned toward the direction that the dragon head was looking, and an excited smile appeared on its face. I want to eat them too. Stupid C*NT. The dragon head flared up with rage. I want to make them my harem. How filthy. The phoenix head spoke expressionlessly. Your bodies aren't suitable. Oomph. I'm a pure and innocent little dragon. The dragon head harumphed coldly. I just want to make them ornamental objects. What are you thinking? And Lin couldn't help but fly toward a certain direction upon seeing this. And Lin, don't do anything rash. We're no match for the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. Bai Ling yelled in a panicked voice. I can't abandon my friends. And Lin's reply was very firm. He had no choice as the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was targeting Su Qianyun and the others. Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan were being protected by Su Wenjun, and the armored female general was also there. But how many attacks would they be able to withstand from the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial? And Lin didn't want to see them die right under his nose. He didn't know where to go, but it was better than doing nothing. Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan's faces paled slightly at the sight of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial turning toward them. Even Su Wenjun and Long Kuei were given quite a fright, and their breathing faltered slightly. There was simply too much of a difference in power, so it was impossible for them to not be scared. If they were evenly matched, or if they were slightly more powerful, then they might be able to put up a fight. However, after reaching a certain level of power, all that was left was fear and despair. I only know how to cook and eat. I can't capture people, the phoenix head said in a slow voice. Hee, then I'll do it. The human head chuckled. Piss off. That's my prey. I'll do it. The dragon head's golden eyes focused on Su Wenjun, and a paramount dragon might instantly proliferated outward, making the space around it extremely viscous. Whoosh! The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial flapped its skeletal wings and quickly flew towards Su Qianyun and the others. Chapter 735. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were almost moved to tears upon seeing that they weren't the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's next target. They knew that it was going to be their turn soon, so they had to find an opportunity to escape in this short amount of time. Fight the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial? That was impossible. To them, that was no different from committing suicide. The three of them had switched from being competitors to partners, and they combined their powers to attack the spatial seal before them. Boom, boom, boom. The golden barrier was like a gargantuan divine mountain in the face of their combined attacks. An expression of despair appeared on Fei Ying's face as she turned toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, only to find that it had already reached Su Wenjun. This battle was most likely going to end very soon, and they were all going to become food for that terrifying monster. Listen to me, little beauty, and don't resist. Otherwise, it'll hurt. A perverted smile appeared on the dragon's face as it opened its massive, sharp mouth, from which a dark blue breath blasted forth, freezing the space in its wake. It was clearly trying to turn everyone in its path into ice sculptures. The dark blue breath swept forth like a surging river. Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, Lu Qianhuan, and Su Qianyan could only fight to the death as they faced the terrifying breath at the same time. Su Wenjun bit down on the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. At the same time, he slit his own artery, from which blood gushed forth, clearly indicating that he was going to use a mystic technique that required a heavy price. Long Kuei let loose an almighty roar as her golden spear shot forth like a dragon. A golden spear projection tore through the air and pierced through heaven and earth with unstoppable might. Lu Qianhuan unleashed her great ice sword, which transformed heaven and earth into frost as a blue sword projection swept through the air. Su Qianyan tossed out a blood talisman. This was a life-saving talisman that Chong Yi had refined for her. Moonlight instantly surged between heaven and earth, obscuring the entire sky, leaving only a single full moon hanging in the sky. A woman in a palatial dress with a set of features that were indistinguishable, but still struck everyone with a sense of peerless beauty as she pointed a finger at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. The deep blue breath surged forward like a long river, first colliding with the golden spear light. The collision of energy caused the void within a radius of thousands of feet to collapse. In the end, the spear light collapsed, and the power of the breath was weakened. Then, the blue breath collided with the extremely cold sword ray, stirring up 1,000 piles of snow. The breath actually seemed to freeze. One had to know that the breath was also of the cold attribute. However, the dark blue river continued to surge forward with unstoppable force. In the end, Lu Qianhuan's sword projection was still vanquished. The power of the blue breath was weakened once again. At this moment, Su Wenjun let out a loud roar and unleashed a true secret technique. A red ball that fluctuated in size and size appeared in his hands, and he tossed it towards the oncoming breath. When the red ball collided with the breath, it exploded. Rumble. It was an explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. The red energy exploded, causing space to distort and shatter, mountains and rivers to collapse. The shockwave of the explosion spread out in all directions in a ring shape, instantly turning everything within a radius of several dozen miles into dust. The blue breath was also completely destroyed at this moment. Under the moonlight, the power of the moon transformed into a pristine white energy that pierced through the air toward the dragon head like a spear or a sword. The dragon head reacted extremely quickly and evaded the terrifying attack in the blink of an eye, allowing the power of the moon to brush past its face. And then, the human head's head was blasted apart by the power of the moon. Ah! The human head wailed in anguish as blood splattered everywhere, leaving a bloody hole in its head. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were all dumbstruck upon seeing this. They managed to block that monster's attack? Bai Pengzi murmured. Not only that, but they also wounded that monster? Fei Ying's eyes widened in shock. Gasp! That's impressive. Duan Hunzi couldn't help but exclaim. The three of them who had been scared shitless by the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial finally felt a glimmer of hope upon seeing this. So the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial wasn't invincible. Its attacks could be blocked, but it could still be wounded. Ah, my head. It hurts. The human head shook its head from side to side. Why am I always the one getting hurt? Well, stupid C***. Why didn't you dodge? The dragon head snapped. Then why did you dodge, Big Brother Dragon? The human head burst into tears. I'd be safe if you didn't dodge. Phoenix head. The dragon head. Stupid C***. Tears welled up in the human head's crimson eyes, and it was hard to tell whether it was crying from pain or indignation. It turned towards Su Qianyun and the others with a vicious expression. Big Brother Dragon, I don't care what you say. I'm going to eat all of them. I can't take this anymore. The dragon head heaved a forlorn sigh. Do whatever you want. I also feel like I was a little too gentle just then, and I ended up bleeding from your head as well. So I can't take it anymore. I was waiting for you to say that, Big Brother Dragon. The human head laughed heartily as it extended one of its huge, white, sword-wielding arms. You little sh*ts, be obedient, and become nourishment from my God-devouring sword." It then stabbed its sword towards Su Wenjun and the others as it spoke. Whoosh! In that instant, heaven and earth were reduced to black and white in everyone's eyes. Only the dazzling rainbow light emanating from the sword projection surged toward everyone in the distance. It's a Tao integration stage spiritual attack. It's over. It's really over. Su Wenjun's features were deathly pale with despair. A Tao integration stage spiritual attack was different from a normal spiritual attack. It could fuse its own Tao into its spiritual attack, thereby allowing it to crush everything with the power of its Tao realm. A spiritual attack of this level was something that not even 10 or 100 return to void stage mighty figures would be able to defend against, as it was fundamentally different. It was like a collision between a rock and a piece of tofu. Su Wenjun and the others had already unleashed their trump cards, so there was no way they would be able to defend against the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's full-force attack. The dazzling rainbow light hurtled through the air, and a sense of crushing pressure crashed into their hearts, rendering them completely unable to muster up any thoughts of resistance. Just as everyone was in despair, a familiar figure appeared before them again. Su Qinyun and Lu Qianhuan were far too familiar with this figure, and they felt like they were in a dream as their hearts thumped in their throats. Then, the man took out a mirror and blocked the rainbow-colored light that dimmed the world in front of him. The mirror strangely absorbed the rainbow-colored light, and then sprayed it out from the mirror. Boom! The rainbow light flashed through the air before sweeping toward the phoenix head. The phoenix head twisted its neck, and its body swayed to evade the rainbow light in the nick of time. Then, the rainbow light collided with the dumbfounded humanoid head, and with a soul-destroying power, it fused into the giant head. Ah, the human head howled in agony. Why is it me again? Chapter 736. Why am I always the one getting hurt? The human head wailed with agony as tears flowed from its eyes, and there was even drool dripping from the corner of its mouth. And Lin's lips twitched. He felt like he had discovered the reason why the human head was such a stupid C***. It was always being screwed over like this, and its head would explode into nothingness. How could it not be stupid? The seven-colored rainbow-like attack seemed to have an extremely terrifying, annihilating effect on the divine soul. The human head continued to cry and cry until its eyes rolled back and its head tilted to one side as it passed out. And Lin, you're so handsome. Lu Qianhuan couldn't be bothered to maintain her composure anymore. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke. Classmate Enlin. Su Qinyun was also looking at Enlin with excitement in her eyes. Enlin's cultivation base wasn't all that high, but he was always very reliable in times of crisis. Hence, in Su Qinyun's heart, Enlin gave her a very strong sense of security. It was as if Enlin's appearance had alleviated a lot of the despair in the air. He's Enlin. Long Kuei was a little curious as she looked at the figure before her. Su Wenjun nodded with astonishment on his face. That's right. He's the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortals sect, Enlin. That monster's attack was blocked again, and its spell technique was reflected. Isn't Lin really that terrifying? Bai Pengzi was a little astonished. Fei Ying's eyes also widened with incredulity as she stared at Enlin in the distance. Mr. Enlin, what do we do now? Su Wenjun asked. Everyone turned to look at Enlin. Enlin was the one who had blocked that lethal attack unscathed and saved everyone, so everyone instinctively treated him as their leader. What do we do? Enlin blinked with a matter-of-fact expression. Of course we do. What else can we do? Su Wenjun was a little speechless. Don't you have a plan? Like, how are we going to escape? Long Kuei chimed in. That's right. You used that treasure to block that attack, right? If it's a head-on battle, our strength is far inferior to that monster's. We can't beat it. It's fine. We don't have to defeat it. We just have to buy some time, Enlin said. Stall for time. Long Kuei was confused. Before Enlin had a chance to reply, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had already pounced toward them. You dare injure my third brother? I'll kill you. The dragon head roared. A terrifying lightning might suddenly accumulated on its dragon horn, following which a purplish-golden bolt of lightning tore through the sky, crashing toward Enlin with the power to destroy all things. This bolt of lightning was imbued with the power of the dragon head's divine Tao, and even space crumbled in its wake. If Enlin hadn't attained his body of the war god, he would have been completely helpless against this power. He wouldn't have been able to use his lightning manipulation technique either, so he could only wait for death. However, now that he had attained his body of the war god, Enlin was able to control this type of lightning. Lightning flashed on Enlin's fingertips, and he flicked them upward. The purplish-golden bolt of lightning arced through the air before crashing toward the dragon head. The dragon head's expression turned pale with fright upon seeing this, and it dodged to the side in the nick of time. Boom! The purplish-golden bolt of lightning struck the human head's forehead, puncturing its glabella and charring its head black. The human head's eyes rolled over into the back of its head as white smoke billowed from its mouth. Everyone was astonished upon seeing this. That earth-shattering spell technique had been reflected again. That pitiful human head had been destroyed again. Gasp! Mr. Enlin didn't use any treasures this time, did he? Why was the spell technique still reflected? An incredulous expression appeared on Long Kuei's face. Su Wenjun was dumbstruck. I don't understand. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial paused for the first time as a hint of wariness appeared on its face. Damn it! How can he reflect all attacks? I'm going to kill him. The dragon head flared up with rage. Don't do anything rash. This human is a little strange. In any case, I don't dare to swallow him, the phoenix head said in a slow voice. Return to void stage powerful beings were delicious, but the phoenix head really didn't dare to eat a soul formation stage powerful being in fear of getting a stomachache. Let's try some spatial techniques. The phoenix head's eyes, which were as dazzling as the golden sun, narrowed slightly. No matter how uncanny a soul formation stage cultivator is, he can't possibly be able to transcend cultivation bases and also possess profound mastery over spatial techniques. Can he? Its voice had only just fallen when a burst of invisible spatial compression swept toward Enlin and the others from all directions like a violent storm. This spatial storm was extremely terrifying, and it was threatening to annihilate even the air itself. Everything in its wake was annihilated, leaving nothing but a vacuum in its wake. Not only that, but the terrifying compression power also made heaven and earth feel extremely surreal. Even a return to void stage mighty figure would be crushed into mincemeat in the face of this spatial storm. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei's expressions shifted drastically as they unleashed their spatial power to defend themselves. However, all of the spatial power they unleashed crumbled in the face of this terrifying spatial storm, as if it were a fragile wall that was unable to withstand a gargantuan wave. Su Qinyun and Lu Qianhuan hadn't even mastered spatial power yet, so they were completely powerless in the face of this power. Enlin stood in midair with his hands clasped behind his back, and his expression remained calm and indifferent in the face of the oncoming spatial storm. He stamped a foot into the air before roaring, "Stop!" Boom! A white spatial cube instantly enshrouded Enlin and the others, keeping the terrifying spatial storm at bay. What a powerful spatial spell technique! Su Wenjun couldn't help but exclaim. There's an extremely pure and peaceful aura of the divine Tao emanating from it. Long Kuei was astonished. Could it be that Enlin has mastered the power of the divine Tao? That's right. There is no one here who could unleash this power, so the only possibility was Enlin. This spatial spell technique had been unleashed by the man who had created the impossible in succession. Just as everyone was staring at Enlin with shock and admiration on their faces, the phoenix head suddenly turned toward another direction, and golden ripples erupted from its eyes. A woman in a white dress was forced out of thin air. She was none other than Bai Ling, who had been secretly assisting Enlin. The phoenix head chuckled coldly before turning to Enlin again. Die, you bastard. Enlin seemed to have sensed something, and he looked up into the sky. He pointed a finger up into the sky, and a golden light flashed through his eyes as a domineering aura erupted forth, making him appear as if he were the ruler of heaven and earth. Borrow the power of the heavens to vanquish all evil. Boom! An indescribable sword projection fell from the sky. It was as white as the clouds, as blue as the ocean, as verdant as a forest, and as dazzling as a rainbow. It seemed to encompass all of the colors in this world, but at the same time, it wasn't any of the colors in this world. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's expression shifted drastically, and its aura rose to its peak as boundless divine light erupted forth in an attempt to keep the sword projection at bay. However, the sword projection was like the sharpest weapon in this world, and it sliced through the divine light with ease. Terrifying sword intent crushed the space before pinning the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's gargantuan body to the ground. The sword projection then plunged into the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's chest, pinning it firmly to the ground. Lin retracted his finger with a calm expression, and his body seemed to have grown infinitely taller and more imposing. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial lay sprawled on the ground as if it were a subjugated monster, and its anguished wails erupted throughout heaven and earth. Everyone stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes with dumbstruck expressions. Chapter 737. Gasp. What kind of spell technique is that now? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's expression was completely unsettled as her eyes widened in shock. That sword strike has already transcended beyond the realm of my comprehension. Bai Pengzi stared blankly at the indescribable celestial sword, and aside from astonishment, there was no other expression on his face. Duan Hunzi's body trembled slightly. What a terrifying sealing power. This is the power of a god. And Lin is so scary. To think that we were planning to barricade his way in. Do you want to die? Bai Pengzi spoke with lingering fear in his heart. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei had already been completely shocked, speechless by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. In particular, an indescribable sword projection fell from the sky right after Lin said, "Borrow the power of the heavens to vanquish all evil," before pinning the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial to death. This was something that could only be done by a god. Classmate Lin is so powerful. Su Qianyun spoke in a mellow voice. Her dreamy eyes reflected the graceful figure in the white robe, and it was a very comforting sight to behold. There's no need to explain what a life with hacks is like. I'm only using hacks in the game, but he's using hacks in real life as well. And Lin was extremely elated after seeing the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial being nailed to death. Don't get complacent. The Divine Tool Realm Creation Evil Vanquishing Sword has yet to be fully activated, so it can only unleash its first technique to temporarily seal away the target's power of the Divine Tao. However, its power is still extremely fearsome, so you have to be on your guard. A cold voice sounded. That's right. This was Black Spirit Snake's voice. Black Spirit Snake had transmitted her voice to Lin to inform him that she was going to unleash a sealing technique, which was why Lin was able to put on such a show. Lin shuddered slightly upon hearing this before nodding with a solemn expression. He turned to everyone. Don't worry, I've already sealed away this monster's power of the Divine Tao. Everyone, come with me and beat it to death. Black Spirit Snake. Hearing this, Su Wenjun and the others did not suspect anything in their fighting spirit sword. Lin then turned toward Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi. If you don't want to die, then come at me and kill this monster. Otherwise, if we lose, do you think you'll have a chance to live? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying and the others hesitated momentarily before nodding. The sword projection embedded in the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's body began to seep into its body like liquid, seeping into its bones and consciousness, imbuing it with an extremely powerful sealing power that sealed away even its true intent of the Tao. Roar. You. Who the hell are you? The dragon head stared at Lin in shock and anger. The power of the divine Tao has really been sealed? This familiar yet annoying feeling of being bound. It wasn't easy for me to break free. The phoenix head's face was filled with indignation. The sword projection began to dissipate, and the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial crawled up from the ground with difficulty before glaring at Enlin with horror and resentment in its eyes. "Brother Phoenix, what should we do?" the dragon head asked in a low voice. Right now, they were faced with a choice between fighting or fleeing. A rare hesitant expression appeared on the phoenix head's face, and it appeared to be quite unsettled. The soul formation stage human cultivator before them appeared to be a pushover. However, that human was able to turn the tables on them every single time, while they were the ones who were suffering the most, and now their powers have been sealed. In all honesty, the phoenix head didn't want to waste any more time with that human cultivator. But fleeing? Who were they? They were the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, a mythological beast, a Tao integration stage true dragon, and a true god. Such a lofty and mighty being was forced to flee in the face of a bunch of soul formation stage and return to void stage cultivators. The phoenix head's breathing accelerated. "I can't take this anymore." "Me neither." The dragon head's voice was like thunder. "Then let's do this." Boom! A terrifying aura erupted forth, and heaven and earth tremored violently. 2 of its 6 arms were covered in crimson feathers, and golden fireballs began to appear in their palms. It was as if 2 suns had appeared out of thin air, incinerating the entire space around them. 2 of its arms were covered in black dragon scales, and they were imbued with great destruction lightning. The lightning flashed and flashed erratically, emanating terrifying energy fluctuations. At that moment, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was like a paramount god. Regardless of whether it was in terms of visual impact or energy fluctuations, everyone was struck by a sense of immense pressure. Crack! Boom! The phoenix head and dragon head were both charred black by the lightning. Everything had happened so abruptly that the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had no chance to evade. The lightning had erupted from the dragon head's palms. Everyone was dumbstruck again before the battle had even begun. In their eyes, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had adopted a very bad *SS pose, holding the glorious world sun with both hands and controlling lightning with both hands. In the next instant, the lightning was hurled toward its own head. For some reason, all of their eyes were focused on the man in the flowing white robe. The man in the white robe was expressionless as he repressed the urge to laugh. "How dare you play with lightning in front of me? You sure have a bad memory." The phoenix head and dragon head were on the brink of tears. They had been struck again, and this time, it was their own power. "Big Brother Phoenix, this is King Evil. How about we run?" The dragon head had a violent temper, but it was still very cowardly at critical moments, especially when a sense of danger welled up in its heart. "Why are we running? Don't forget who we are. How can we lower our heads and run away in front of a bunch of rabble?" The phoenix head was usually a very nonchalant person, but when it was faced with a situation where its dignity was at stake, it would often choose to face the situation with a proud and unyielding attitude. "Don't use lightning energy. He didn't use the phoenix flames in my hands to attack us," which means that his power is only effective against lightning energy. After a brief internal struggle, the phoenix head and dragon head regrouped and pounced toward Enlin again. "Disperse!" Enlin yelled. At this moment, the phoenix head had already hurled 2 golden fireballs toward Enlin, and the space around them was instantly sealed. Rumble! It was as if 2 massive suns were crashing toward Enlin, and the terrifying temperatures caused the space around them to twist and warp. Even his divine body was unable to withstand the terrifying temperatures, and his skin began to turn a little red. Divine spear, piercing sun. A light cry sounded from beside him. Long Kuei's entire body was enshrouded in golden immortal light, and she wielded her golden spear like an invincible war goddess as she charged toward Enlin before thrusting her spear toward the golden fireballs. Immortal landscape of mountains and rivers. Su Wenjun also appeared in front of Enlin, and the power of his domain erupted forth in a frenzy. countless rivers of the nine heavens surged toward the golden flames, and a series of divine mountain projections appeared in the air before crashing down toward the golden flames with the vast power of the earth. The spear projection crashed into the fireballs with boundless sharpness, and the rivers of the nine heavens also crashed into the divine mountains. Boom! In that instant, the light of the explosion enshrouded the heavens. Enlin's body was also blasted back by the terrifying shock waves, but the smile on his face did not falter. He, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, has indeed become a lot weaker. Even a return to Void Stage mighty figure can keep its attack at bay. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial flared up with rage upon seeing that its attack had been blocked again, and it was just about to give chase again. At this moment, countless cherry blossoms suddenly fell from heaven and earth, and the pink petals transformed into blades that sliced through the air before slicing into the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's massive body. A massive comical face, several thousand feet in size, fell from the sky before crashing heavily into the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's head. "Ha ha, eat my death god smile bomb." Boom! The comical face exploded, and a massive mushroom cloud rose up from the ground. Wind began to rise. A white blade projection sliced through the dust, as Baipengzi's arms sliced through heaven and earth before crashing down upon the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's head. The three heads were extremely close, and the dragon head and phoenix head were both momentarily dazed by the return to Void Stage mighty figure's barrage of attacks. At this moment, the death god had descended upon them. This was a good opportunity. Baipengzi transformed into a celestial pung, and his wings were like blades that sliced through heaven and earth. The human head's eyes suddenly split open to reveal a pair of crimson eyes. It opened its mouth wide and revealed a strange smile on its pale, charred face. "Hee, I'm so lucky. I was just getting hungry, and you delivered yourself to me?" Chapter 738. All the hair on Baipengzi's body stood on end at the sight of the human head suddenly opening its eyes. The human head had always given everyone the impression that it was a harmless and simple-minded creature. However, it was still able to open its eyes and reveal a sinister smile despite being so severely wounded. The sense of intimidation and terror it exuded was just as overwhelming. Regardless of whether everyone else was scared or not, Baipengzi had pissed his pants. He immediately did a 180-degree turn and fled. "Huh, don't run. I'm really hungry." The human head murmured as it slashed out two streaks of sword light with both hands. The sword was profound and sharp, and it instantly broke through the cherry blossom killing array before landing on Baipengzi's body. Baipengzi's Tian Peng wings were sliced off as blood splattered through the air. He let loose a wail of anguish as he unleashed a mystic technique with all his might to flee into the distance like a white shooting star. The human head sucked the wings into its mouth before chewing relentlessly. Chicken wings, not bad. They're quite tender, but a little too fluffy. Stupid C*** and T. You ate them without plucking them, and it even went into our shared stomachs. How disgusting. The dragon head snapped back to its senses after the explosion. The phoenix head was even more disgusted. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying and the others were initially feeling a little more confident after seeing how powerful Enlin was, but they didn't think that the human head would suddenly awaken and unleash such terrifying power to severely wound Baipengzi in the blink of an eye. "Big brother dragon, big brother phoenix, please stop scolding me. My head hurts." The human head chuckled as it swung its arms through the air, unleashing a sword tornado that instantly pulverized all of the cherry blossoms in the sky. "Let's get our revenge first. You killed me once, so I have to avenge myself." The human head harumphed with rage as its two swords slashed through the air in a peculiar trajectory, creating a yin and yang cycle. One of the swords then slashed toward Duan Hunzi, while the other toward Celestial Maiden Fei Ying. Whoosh! A sword projection tens of thousands of feet in length instantly swept toward Fei Ying like the sun. Fei Ying's beautiful face paled, and she immediately unleashed a mystic technique to conjure up 99 cherry blossom shields in front of her, only to be engulfed by the boundless, scorching sword projections. The other sword beam froze the world. Duan Hunzi was already prepared for it after seeing Bai Pengzi get killed. He immediately used a secret technique to charge up the smiley face shield in front of him. Rumble. The smiley face was sent flying over 10,000 meters by the blue sword light. Duan Hunzi shivered behind the frozen smiley face, wondering if he should play dead. The human head didn't unleash any attacks, but once it did, it would kill a child with a single strike. All of the return to void stage mighty figures trembled in fear. Hee. Even though this melon doll has some problems with his IQ, his combat power is still the strongest amongst us. The dragon head chuckled as he spoke. There was a look of admiration on his face. This was the first time the dragon head praised the human head. Although this sentence was still somewhat insulting. Humph. I'm not stupid, I'm innocent. It was kindness. He is wholeheartedly cultivating the Tao. The human head was unconvinced. You can find so many reasons to justify your stupidity. I really have to look at you differently now. The dragon head looked at the human head with an even more appreciative expression. Stop arguing. If you want to argue, kill all of them first. Our first target is that soul formation stage, human being. The phoenix head stared at the white-robed figure in the distance with a grave expression on her face. Lin was most likely the first soul formation stage cultivator on the Tai Chu continent to be referred to as a powerful being by a Tao integration stage being. However, Lin was not very happy. He had been targeted again, and this was after he had used all of his trump cards. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial ignored the 3 half-dead return to void stage mighty figures. Instead, it turned its eyes toward Lin again. The human head was a little intimidated. Big Brother Dragon, Big Brother Phoenix, what should we do? The Phoenix head replied, use a physical attack. That's the most conservative attack. Bam! The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's gargantuan body instantly broke through the sound barrier, sweeping trees into the air and sending entire sections of the ground flying. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei rushed forward without any hesitation. The mountain river mural transformed into a spatial cage from which countless divine mountains and rivers materialized before Lin and the others, as if it were a boundless heaven and earth that was trying to seal off the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's movements. This was a top-tier spatial spell technique that could create a world through the use of space. It was both a spatial seal and a world seal. Humph, you want to play with space before me? The phoenix head harumphed coldly as it made 2 peculiar ancient seals with its crimson feathered hands. God's mandate, only heaven and earth. Invisible ripples instantly enshrouded the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's body. It then crashed into the spatial cage manifested by the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial like a cannonball, causing mountains and rivers to crumble violently. All spatial obstructions were like papier-mâché in the face of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. PFFF. Su Wenjun seemed to have been severely wounded by the backlash, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had only just broken through Su Wenjun's spatial seal when an earth-shattering spear projection hurtled toward it. The spear projection was extremely dazzling, and the tip of the spear was aimed directly at the human head. The arms of the human head danced through the air at high speed, and the huge sword was like a divine being that swept through heaven and earth, shattering the mighty spear projection with its powerful sword might. Not only that, but the long sword also curved through the air before stabbing toward Lin at an even faster speed. Die! A bloodthirsty light flashed through the human head's crimson eyes as a monstrous crimson aura erupted from its 2 swords. And Lin stared at the 2 swords, and he felt as if he could hear the anguished wails of billions of living beings. A deranged killing intent erupted from his body, and the entire sky was stained red by his sword. The entire space became viscous, as if it had been filled with blood. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei were unable to provide reinforcements in time, and they turned to Lin with pale faces, only to find that Lin was still standing there with his hands clasped behind his back. A white spatial cube appeared before him again. Boom! The longsword brought with it an extremely terrifying might as it crashed into the spatial cube. A rift several kilometers in length was torn open in the air by the sword projection, but the spatial cube only rippled slightly. Huh, it's so hard. The human head was dumbstruck. The dragon head's golden eyes turned toward a certain spot in the air, as if they could see through all illusions and illusions, upon which a graceful white figure appeared again. It was shocked and enraged. You again. Bai Ling's concealment and concealment spell techniques were simply too powerful, to the point where the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was forced to ignore her again and again in order to focus its attention on someone else. However, this time, the dragon head was staring intently at Bai Ling, as if it were afraid that she would escape from its field of vision. If it wanted to kill Lin, it would have to kill that person in the distance first. Lightning crackled above its head, as if it were an enraged heavenly god. However, it suddenly realized something and immediately dispelled the lightning. Phew, that was close. The dragon head turned toward Lin with lingering fear in its eyes, only to see Lin's slightly disappointed expression, and its chest constricted as it almost threw up a mouthful of blood. F***CK. Its forte was playing with lightning, but who would have thought that there would be a cultivator who was even better at playing with lightning than it was? How far was he going to go? It could be said that he was going to be crushed. The dragon head was so frustrated that it didn't even have the courage to play with lightning in front of that cultivator anymore. How frustrating. How infuriating. And Lin, I'm going to kill you, the dragon head roared as the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial pounced toward Lin again. That's right, it had ignored Bai Ling again. Chapter 739. When the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial pounced toward Lin, Su Wenjun and Long Kuei sprang into action again. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's attack was then nullified by the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial again, upon which a white spatial barrier appeared to block the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's earth-shattering attack. The dragon head was greatly alarmed, and it turned toward a certain spot in the air to discover Bai Ling again. It let loose another torrent of abuse and prepared to attack. However, after thinking about it, it still felt like Lin was the most detestable of all. Lin, I'm going to kill you. The dragon head let loose an almighty roar before pouncing toward Lin again, along with the human head and phoenix head. Lin was about to kneel down in awe of his power. He raised his head to look at Bai Ling, only to discover that a mischievous smile had appeared on her beautiful face. Was it because Bai Ling's sense of existence had been lowered, or was it because Lin's sense of existence had been secretly increased? That was the question. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted as the human head's sword struck Lin's spatial barrier again. Then, a new cycle began. It had to be said that this was a very effective method for stalling for time. It could make the enemy's emotions fluctuate violently and force them to spout a few more useless lines. After all, even Bai Ling wouldn't be able to keep up with the constant fighting and killing. Lin had flown over 10,000 meters away from the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial again. Wait, something's not right. The phoenix head suddenly exclaimed as it stared at the familiar scene before its eyes. That's right. It's so strange. Why can't we kill a soul formation stage cultivator after fighting him for so long? The human head's eyes were wide with astonishment. The dragon head was also deep in thought. It felt like it had forgotten something. The phoenix head's eyes narrowed slightly. It's very likely that we've been struck by some kind of terrifying spiritual spell technique. It could be illusionary interference, or it could be brainwave interference. There's no time to waste. I suggest combining the three gods to obtain divinity. The dragon head and the human head both fell silent. The three gods unite refer to the fusion of their three souls, which would maintain the absolute consciousness of the main body. They could destroy and see through all soul attacks, but the price was that they would have to bear the terrifying pain of their souls being split after the spell was cast. Agreed, the dragon head said. Agreed, the human head chimed in. I'll form the head, the phoenix head said. No, it was you last time. This time, it's my turn to be the main consciousness. The dragon head refused. I also want to be the master of this body, the human head said in a shy voice. Scram! The phoenix and dragon heads exclaimed in unison. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial would really be an idiot if the consciousness of a human was in charge. How could the mighty Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial have a retarded brain? You're too hot-tempered. I'm more intelligent, so let me take over. The phoenix head was unwilling to relinquish its dominant position. Why? It's better to be violent in a fight. The dragon head was unwilling to give up. The two leaders argued endlessly. And Lin, Bai Ling, Su Wenjun, and Long Kuei took this opportunity to swallow some pills to recover their energy. They didn't know what the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was up to, but they were happy to let them continue their argument. After Bai Pengzi's wings were eaten, he reverted back to his human form, but his arms were missing. He hid in a forest and concealed his aura as he trembled uncontrollably. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's beautiful dress had been burned into tatters, and there were a few burns all over her body. She changed her clothes and silently approached Lin and the others. She was afraid that the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial would suddenly change its target and try to swallow a return to Void Stage Cultivator. Wouldn't that spell certain death for her? The most dangerous place was the safest, and she chose to latch onto it. Dao's smiley face. Tui. After Duan Hunzi's smiley face was destroyed, he materialized another smiley face bomb, which he launched toward the golden barrier while no one was paying attention to him. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's power of the divine Dao had become weaker, so this trapping spell technique had to have become weaker as well, right? Perhaps he would be able to break through it? In any case, that was what he was thinking. He had to make use of every opportunity he had to escape. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion erupted on the golden barrier, which tremored slightly, but did not shatter. Duan Hunzi then discovered with despair that he had attracted the attention of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, Holy Mother of God. He immediately covered his body with a huge, smiley face bomb. From the perspective of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, he could only see a gigantic smiley face. Lin and Lu Qianhuan's lips twitched upon seeing this. They felt like this sect leader of the life-harvesting sect was risking his life to make a joke out of himself. All right, don't waste any more time. We're going to be completely sealed if we keep wasting time like this. The Phoenix head put an end to their debate. You all call me Brother Phoenix, so you should listen to me. I'll be the head. All right, I'll listen to Brother Phoenix. The human head raised its two swords high into the air in agreement. The dragon head. Sigh, all right. At the end of the day, the Phoenix head was the boss. After all, it was the oldest among them. After the three heads made their decision, pillars of red, blue, and white light erupted from their bodies before soaring into the sky and rocking the entire heavens. Red waves of flames engulfed the sky, blue bolts of lightning flashed through the air, and white bolts of light flickered erratically. The three pillars of light were mainly red in color. The white and blue pillars bowed slightly before converging toward the red pillar, and Lin instantly became excited upon seeing the lightning. Thus, the blue pillar of lightning suddenly changed directions before crashing violently into the red pillar of flames. Holy F***CK. The Phoenix head's expression turned pale with fright. Holy F***CK. The dragon head was both shocked and enraged. They suddenly came to their senses. That freak was right there, so they couldn't use F***King lightning. Boom! Another fearsome clash of energy erupted as the red and blue pillars of light tremored violently, showing signs of waning. It was also at this moment that the white pillar of light became the most dazzling existence. The other two pillars of light began to slowly converge toward the white pillar of light as if they were bowing toward it. The Phoenix head was dumbstruck. What the F***CK? The dragon head wailed with grief. No! The three pillars of light fused together, and the white pillar of light absorbed the power of the other two pillars of light before flowing into the human head's head. things began to develop in an uncontrollable direction, and the phoenix head and the dragon head wanted to avoid this the most. Their bodies were going to be dominated by an idiot. The pillars of light disappeared. The dragon head and phoenix head slowly closed their eyes with indignation etched on their faces. A rainbow divine halo began to appear on the human head's head, and it began to revolve relentlessly. And Lin was struck by a sense of familiarity at the sight of the divine halo. He suddenly came to a realization. Didn't that King monster have a divine halo like this? A terrifying aura erupted from the Holy Trinity Fin Celestial's body, and the vital energy of heaven and earth transformed into a violent storm that swept forth in all directions. He. I'm the one controlling this body. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm so excited. The human head jumped up and down with all 6 of its arms waving in the air. Chapter 740. The human head was elated for a long while before finally calming down. Oh, right, I still have to take revenge and eat all of you. It looked at Lin and the others with a sinister chuckle, and a pair of black and crimson magatama appeared in its crimson eyes. Before that, let's take care of the most troublesome ones first. Bai Ling's body was forced out by a burst of spatial fluctuations, and her expression shifted as she made a series of hand seals, upon which her body quickly disappeared again. In the next instant, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had already appeared before her, and its swords transformed into a series of afterimages as it unleashed a series of devastating sword projections. So fast, Bai Ling's heart jolted with shock as she unleashed her extraordinary movement techniques to evade the human head's sword projections. Even though she wasn't a Dao integration stage super mighty figure, she was still a return to void final stage super mighty figure. Furthermore, her path was the information network, and she was proficient in the Tao of deduction and calculation. As such, she was able to evade the human head's attack, which could easily slice apart a return to void stage mighty figure with ease. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei rushed forward to provide reinforcements. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial waved its other 2 arms through the air, and boundless flames transformed into a torrential rain of swords that hurtled toward the 2 of them. The dragon-scaled arms also extended toward Bai Ling at the same time, and countless white mist-flying dragons and divine water-flying dragons surged forth toward Bai Ling. The pressure on Bai Ling increased drastically, and she was soon forced into a disadvantageous position. And Lin was getting a little agitated upon seeing this, and he turned to the other side before yelling, "Why are you 2 still standing there like idiots? Come at me together. What's there to be afraid of? You're just a stupid C*NT monster. Where's your dignity as a return to void stage mighty figure? Hurry up and buy me some time. I'm going to prepare a super powerful sealing technique. I can't be interrupted during this process. If I'm killed, you 2 won't even have a chance to live." His words were finally able to inspire Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi. No one wanted to die. If there was a chance to live, then they naturally had to fight for it. Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi immediately made a series of hand seals and began to chant something after Lin finished speaking. The power of Lin's sword was still lingering in their minds. Now that Lin was preparing a super powerful sealing technique, how weak would its power be? Fei Ying gritted her teeth as a determined expression appeared on her face. *CK it. We're pinning our hopes of getting out on him. And Lin is so powerful. There must be no problem with his spells. We can't let that monster interrupt him. Duan Hunzi made up his mind. The 2 of them looked at each other before also pouncing toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. As for Bai Pengzi, both of his arms had been eaten by the human head, so he was most afraid of the human head. It could be said that the human head's shadow was infinitely large, and it looked like he would rather die than be beaten to death. As for Lin, he was still casually making hand seals and muttering 300 Tang poems. Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi's participation in the battle alleviated a lot of the pressure on Bai Ling. "I'm beating this woman. Why are you interfering? You're bullying me." The human head became more and more agitated as it fought. Not only did it have to attack Bai Ling, but it also had to defend against the attacks of the other four returned to void stage mighty figures. All of a sudden, it felt like even its 6 arms weren't enough. The human head's 6 arms flailed around in a slightly uncoordinated manner, and Bai Ling flashed past its head. Its eyes followed Bai Ling's movements, and its head tilted to the side as it accidentally fell backward onto its back. In that instant, the human head was bombarded by 5 return to void stage mighty figures one after the other. Countless cherry blossoms, a comical face, a nuclear bomb, a golden spear, a flying dragon. Mountains and rivers crashed down, space twisted and exploded. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial lay on the ground as it was engulfed by countless terrifying spell techniques. The earth within a radius of several dozen kilometers was pulverized by the devastating energy as the human head wailed in anguish. Wah! Help me! It hurts! Tears flowed down the human head's face as its crimson eyes suddenly began to revolve. It roared, "You're ganging up on me! You're ganging up on me! What kind of hero are you? If I had 1,000 arms, I wouldn't be scared of you." Whoosh! Boundless rainbow light suddenly erupted from the rainbow halo above the human head, obscuring all other colors between heaven and earth. Everyone was struck by a sense of dizziness, and they almost lost their minds. When everyone came to their senses, they were all dumbstruck by the sight of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial standing up again. Countless arms appeared behind the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. These arms were like the feathers of a peacock, and they formed a semicircle behind its back, each of which was imbued with the power of a type of divine ability. There were all types of sword and saber divine abilities that could shatter space and shock heaven and earth. There were all types of bloodthirsty divine abilities, as well as sinister soul power divine abilities. This is fake, right? Duan Hunzi's legs had given out from under him, and his teeth were chattering uncontrollably. Before them, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had manifested over 1,000 arms, all of which were imbued with an earth-shattering divine ability. And Lin had completely given up on reciting the Tang Dynasty poems. He almost knelt down in fear upon seeing this. If 1,000 F** king spell techniques were unleashed at the same time, the entire earth would be blasted apart. He silently pulled out his chaotic alloy brick and positioned it in front of him. Regardless of whether it was effective or not, it was still better than doing nothing. Boom! The space within a radius of 5 kilometers began to crack open, and a series of inky black rifts began to appear in the air. Huh, I really do have 1,000 arms now. The human head looked at the arms behind it with elation, upon which the vital energy within a radius of several hundred kilometers began to surge violently. The 5 returned to void stage mighty figures hurriedly retreated into the distance. How the F** were they supposed to fight now? If they continued to fight, they would be insta-killed. The human head couldn't help but stomp its foot when it saw its opponents running away. Oomph. All of you aren't allowed to run. I finally managed to grow so many arms. So come back and play with me. All of you should be struck by lightning for running away. The human head had initially thought that this was just a threat to vent its anger, but the rainbow halo above its head began to glow even brighter. Immediately afterward, lightning clouds began to fall from above the heads of the 5 fleeing return to void stage mighty figures. They really were going to be struck by lightning. And Lin was completely dumbstruck. Holy F***, is that halo above its head Aladdin's lamp? Can anything you say become a wish come true? The 5 return to void stage mighty figures were also dumbstruck, and they all abandoned their escape techniques in order to defend themselves from the lightning falling from the sky. Right after they stopped running, the lightning in the sky began to disappear again. All the return to void stage mighty figures. Bai Ling spoke with a grave expression. This is the first time that the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's consciousness has been combined as one with the human head. Combined with the pure and unpredictable pillar of light from before, its power should be similar to the power of absolute command. It possesses a portion of the power to make words come true. Verbal compliance? And Lin's heart jolted with shock. This was a power similar to the power of laws. Even among the Tao integration stage mighty figures, no one knew how to use such a power, but that stupid C**nt knew how to use it. Could it be that the more stupid a person was, the more resolute their Tao heart would be, and the more profound and terrifying their domain would be? The more stupid a person was, the more terrifying a person was. Just as everyone was in shock and horror, the Holy Trinity, Fiend Celestial, sprang into action again. Let me see just how powerful all 10 of my arms are. Its 10 arms began to dance through the air as it spoke, and spell techniques and divine abilities hurtled towards Su Wenjun and the others. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying energy engulfed heaven and earth within a radius of close to 10 kilometers. And Lin, who was silently watching from the sidelines, was also sent flying by the terrifying force of the explosion. Chapter 741. The power unleashed by the 10 arms was comparable to the power unleashed by 10 normal return to void stage mighty figures. Bai Ling, Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, Fei Ying, and Duan Hunzi fought with all their might and were finally able to keep the monstrous attack at bay. However, their expressions were extremely grim, as that was only the power of 10 arms. They were already struggling to keep the power of 10 arms at bay. So what would it be like if 1,000 arms attacked at once? Everyone was going to be blasted into nothingness. There were 4 figures standing cautiously at the edge of a certain golden barrier, in fear of being discovered by the Fiend Celestial. Gasp! Is that stupid C**nt using hacks? If all of them were to come crashing down, we'd be screwed no matter how far we run, right? Lu Qianhuan was a little concerned. Should we unleash some defensive spell techniques in advance? Su Qinyun asked in a quiet voice, as if she were a frightened kitten who was afraid of alerting the stupid C**nt in the distance. Dong was stood at the very front with a graceful expression. Don't worry, Princess Yunlo. With me here, you won't be harmed in the slightest. A rare expression of haughtiness appeared on Su Qinyun's face. That sounds so familiar. Dongguo's lips twitched with an awkward expression. Don't worry, Dongguo is Big Brother and's underling now. If he doesn't protect you, Big Brother and will eat him alive. Woof. Dabai chimed in. Dongguo clasped a hand over his chest upon hearing this. This kind of heart-wrenching and critical words made him completely lose the mood to speak. He could only stand guard at the forefront, cursing in his heart that a dog's mouth could not spit out ivory. The Holy Trinity, Fiend Celestial, reappeared in the extremely far distance. The human head chuckled as it looked at the 5 return to void stage mighty figures several kilometers away. You guys sure are impressive to be able to keep my 10 arms at bay. Now, have a taste of 10-fold power. Bai Ling, Su Wenjun, and the others all prepared to defend themselves against the spell techniques with solemn expressions. They had no choice. They were trapped here, and they couldn't run away. As such, they could only defend themselves against these spell techniques that struck fear into their hearts. This time, it's the strength of 100 arms. I wonder if I can withstand it. Su Wenjun smiled bitterly. Isn't Lin's sealing technique not done yet? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying turned toward Enlin to discover that Enlin was hiding behind a black brick, trembling uncontrollably. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's face was deathly pale. Didn't you say you were going to prepare the sealing spell and let us stall for time? You're just going to stay on a brick. Duan Hunzi and Su Wenjun also noticed that Enlin was behaving strangely, and their faces paled even more. Don't worry, let's stop this 100-arm strength first. Perhaps we'll be able to turn things around later. Long Kuei was still full of battle intent, and she was trying to boost everyone's morale. They had no other choice but to prepare their spells again, hoping that they could block the power that was 10 times stronger than before. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's arms began to move as the human head yelled with excitement. Witness this. It's 10 times stronger than before, the strength of 1,000 arms. All 1,000 of its arms began to move in unison, and 1,000 earth-shattering divine abilities began to gather power as terrifying enough to collapse the entire sky, swept forth in all directions. Space was already beginning to crumble before the attacks had even been unleashed. Bai Ling, Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, Fei Ying, and Duan Hunzi were all dumbstruck. Did I hear it wrong? Shouldn't it be the strength of 100 arms? Fei Ying's eyes widened with shock. It said it was 10 times stronger than 10 arms. So theoretically speaking, it should be 100 arms, Su Wenjun murmured. It's a pity that it's an idiot. Bai Ling hit the nail on the head. Everyone. So this F asterisk kingdom C asterisk and T just unleashed the strength of 1,000 arms. Duan Hunzi panted heavily, and he looked like he was about to throw up a mouthful of blood. 10 times 10 equals 1,000? As expected of the human head. We're screwed. Even Long Kuei, who had been encouraging everyone this entire time, was struck by extreme despair as she stared at the terrifying spell techniques hurtling toward her. And Lin, who was hiding behind the black brick, immediately retreated as quickly as he could while keeping the black brick at bay. This human head was planning on using the strength of 100 arms to unleash the strength of 1,000 arms. If the strength of 100 arms became the strength of 1,000 arms, wouldn't that be scary? Were they touched? This time, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's actions had everyone dumbstruck. 1,000 returned to void stage spell techniques converged, and just their light alone illuminated the entire mystic realm. Everyone felt like the entire world would be destroyed if all of these spell techniques were to fall upon them. However, right at this moment, something unexpected happened again. A series of crimson lines suddenly began to appear on the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's body. PFFF cough cough cough. The dragon head threw up a large mouthful of blood, and it opened its eyes with great difficulty, upon which it was greeted by the sight of the human head preparing to unleash 1,000 spell techniques. Holy F asterisk CK. Stupid C asterisk NT human head. Don't drag me down with you if you want to die. Stop right now. The dragon head let loose a torrent of abuse. The phoenix head also threw up a large mouthful of blood as it opened its feeble eyes. I feel like my body has been completely sucked dry. It was then greeted by the sight of the human head unleashing 1,000 spell techniques. Phoenix head, have you gone insane? How dare you use such a forbidden technique? We're all going to die here before we even get a chance to unleash our spell techniques. I'll give you 3 seconds to stop your spell techniques right now. The phoenix head was almost roaring at the top of its lungs. The human head didn't dare to act rashly now that its 2 big brothers had spoken. The light from the spell techniques on its 1,000 arms began to disappear. Not only that, but the 1,000 arms also began to crumble. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's legs gave out from under it, and it fell to the ground. Boom! A massive crater was blasted into the ground. Why can't I use any strength at all? The human head wailed. Stupid C asterisk NT. If I had woken up any later, all 3 of us would have died here. The dragon head became more and more enraged as it spoke. Its flesh crawled with fear. Allowing this B asterisk star to be the main consciousness was our biggest mistake. The phoenix head concluded. It was also at this moment that the rainbow halo above the human head's head began to crumble, and its aura quickly diminished. Everyone stared at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial lying on the ground with a myriad of emotions welling up in their hearts. Phew! I knew it. How could a monster with its power of the divine Tao sealed be able to unleash such a terrifying spell technique? Fei Ying heaved a long sigh of relief as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Hee, only the human head could unleash that technique. If it weren't for the fact that the dragon head and phoenix head woke up in time, we would have most likely all been wiped out, and the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial would have been killed by the backlash from the spell technique, Bai Ling retorted. Fei Ying was rendered speechless. She knew that Bai Ling knew the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial better than she did, so she didn't offer any retort. So we really did take a trip to the gates of hell. Su Wenjun sighed with emotion. Right at this moment, the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's anguished wails erupted into the heavens. Chapter 742. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's mystic technique had a price to pay, which was the excruciating pain that came with the separation of one's consciousness after the mystic technique ended. The massive body of over 10,000 feet tall, which had once been a nightmare to everyone, was now rolling around on the ground in agony. The pain of having one's consciousness separated was no less painful than the pain of having one's consciousness destroyed. However, the pain of having one's consciousness destroyed only lasted for an instant. But the pain of having one's consciousness separated was a constant one. It hurts so much. I can't take it anymore. Kill me. The human head howled with agony, and its face twisted as it stabbed its huge swords toward its own chest in an attempt to commit suicide. The two swords fell, only to be intercepted by a pair of dragon hands and a pair of phoenix hands. Stupid C***, and T. Don't drag us down with you if you want to die. The dragon head roared. The phoenix head glared at the human head with killing intent. I'll give you 1 second to repent. That's enough. Your time is up, and your repentance has no effect. Die. Boom, 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 boom. 4 massive fists crashed down upon the human head's head like a series of heavy bombs, sweeping up gale force winds in a radius of over 50 kilometers. Su Wenjun and the others stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, with incredulity on their faces. In their eyes, it was as if the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial had raised its 4 arms and swung its fists relentlessly toward its own head. It was as if it were trying to crush itself to death, and it was a very unsettling sight to behold. Is it trying to kill itself? Su Qinyun stared at the scenes unfolding before her with incredulity. Everything was so bizarre and dazzling that it was an eye-opener for her. Lu Qianhuan, on the other hand, began to entertain herself happily. I'll kill you. Who killed me, and who did I kill? Her brows furrowed slightly. Did I kill myself? Dabai extended a paw to play along with Lu Qianhuan's act. Correct. Let's do it. Soon, the human head was on the brink of death. Its face was bruised and swollen, and saliva flowed from the corners of its mouth, as if it had lost its mind. Phew, that feels so much better, the dragon head said. We've finally found an excuse to vent our frustrations. The phoenix head nodded in agreement. The 2 leaders had suffered so many grievances and nearly died. They had long been suppressing a bellyful of anger. Now that they had completely vented it out, they felt much more at ease. And Lin, who was watching from afar, really wanted to complain. This was the first time he had seen a monster who had beaten himself up and still had a satisfied smile on his face. Did this mean that he was satisfied? The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was still rolling around on the ground, convulsing and convulsing. The pain of soul separation was still ongoing. The dragon head was shedding tears of woof woof, and the phoenix head was even shedding tears of blood. However, there were no more idiots yelling at the top of their lungs that they wanted to commit suicide. I feel like knocking that thing unconscious is letting it off easy. Look at how soundly it's sleeping. The dragon head wailed in anguish. I can't accept this. Let's beat it awake. A cold light flashed through the phoenix head's eyes. 4 fists the size of small mountains once again fell on the head of the human head. Boom, 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 boom. All of the mighty figures looked on at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial rolling around on the ground in pain while inflicting self-mutilation upon themselves. All of them were struck by a sense of eeriness, but they were also quite elated. Let's attack this monster together while it's weakened. Battle intent surged from Long Kuei's body as she wielded her spear. In the end, no one responded. All of them looked on from the sidelines. Fang rolled her eyes at Long Kuei. That monster was clearly enraged right now, and even though she had a chance to beat it up while it was down, once it recovered its power, it would definitely be the first one to die. Bai Ling didn't reply. She looked up into the sky from time to time, and no one knew what she was looking at. And Lin, Mr. Lin, how's the sealing technique coming along? A gentle, seductive voice sounded. And Lin had already put away his chaotic alloy brick, and he was making hand seals with a serious expression while chanting something. He shot a glance at Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, who was transmitting her voice to him, but he didn't say anything. Instead, He continued to recite the bright moonlight in front of his bed, as if to say, "Don't disturb me while I'm unleashing my sealing technique." Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's heart finally calmed down a little upon seeing Enlin like this. However, Enlin was still quite unsettled. He tried to transmit his voice to Black Spirit Snake, but he was completely unable to detect Black Spirit Snake's aura. It had already been so long since the first sealing technique was unleashed, and he had risked his life several times already, but there was still no response from the higher-ups. It was a lie to say that he wasn't panicking. However, there was nothing he could do. All he could do was worry. The only thing he could do was recite a poem from time to time and make a few hand seals that even he didn't understand in order to calm everyone down. We can't wait any longer. We have to make the most of this opportunity. Long Kuei's golden spear trembled uncontrollably as her aura soared to the very peak. Golden immortal light shimmered on the tip of her spear. However, it was also at this moment that a slender hand pressed down on Long Kuei's shoulder. Long Kuei's expression faltered as she turned to look at the woman beside her. A relaxed smile appeared on the woman's face. "Don't worry. Let's wait a little longer." "What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for Enlin to unleash his sealing technique?" Long Kuei's brows furrowed. She knew that Enlin was extremely powerful, but his previous unreliable actions made her feel very uneasy. "We're waiting for the sealing technique. The sealing technique is about to unleash, so let's not cause any unnecessary trouble during this period of time," Bai Ling said in a gentle voice, and her voice was imbued with a certain soothing power. Long Kuei silently withdrew her aura. Bai Ling gave off a very reliable feeling. She was a beautiful, powerful, and gentle big sister. The Holy Trinity, Fiend Celestial, struggled in agony for a while longer before crawling to its feet with great difficulty. Enlin could see that the monster's legs were still trembling as it stood up, clearly indicating that it had endured a lot of pain. "Phew, we finally made it. I thought I was going to King die from the pain." The dragon head's teeth chattered as it spoke. If there were any rewards, then a little pain wouldn't be an issue. But look at that stupid C***T. We finally attained such extraordinary power, but not a single one of our enemies suffered any casualties. They're all looking at us as a joke. The phoenix head's voice became darker and darker as it spoke, and its trembling hands indicated that it was on the brink of eruption. However, the dragon head suddenly turned its gaze toward Lin. "That stupid C***T is indeed useless, but all of this is because of that man." It recalled the man's terrifying sealing technique and lightning manipulation technique, and its rage soared explosively. The phoenix head also turned toward Lin. It has to be said that this human is very powerful, but it's exactly because of this that he must die. The dragon head and phoenix head stared at Lin with killing intent that seemed to have materialized into a substantial, chilling aura. The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial sprang into action. Its skeletal wings spread open, and its body shot forth like a bolt of lightning toward Lin. Ding, ding, ding. The second technique of the realm creation evil vanquishing sword, Seal Heaven and Earth, is ready, and you can flex at any time. Black Spirit Snake seemed to be in a very good mood, and even the style of her voice transmission to Enlin was beginning to evolve. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face, and he showed no hint of fear in the face of the oncoming Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. He pointed a finger toward the sky and another finger toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial as he spoke in a clear voice. "I am the sole ruler of all things, and I shall seal heaven and earth." Chapter 743. Enlin's white robe danced in the wind, and he remained calm and collected in the face of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's onslaught. He pointed a finger forward, and even the clouds in the sky began to change. The entire sky was enshrouded by a golden divine light, and everything around him seemed to have slowed to a crawl. This slowness affected everyone's senses, including the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. It could also sense that everything in this world had slowed to a crawl. Even its lightning-fast attack appeared to be as slow as a snail in its eyes. The dragon head and phoenix head couldn't help but turn their eyes toward the sky, where the clouds parted to reveal a divine sword. The divine sword glowed with a dazzling light, and a series of extremely thin chains wound themselves around the blade of the sword like golden stars, making it impossible for anyone to see what the sword looked like. Whoosh! The ringing of the sword reverberated throughout the entire world. To a normal person, this sound was like the heavenly music of an immortal, but to the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, it was struck by an extremely terrifying sense of horror. It howled and covered its ears as it half knelt to the ground. When it raised its head again, it discovered that the divine sword had already connected heaven and earth. The hilt of the sword was the heavens, and the blade was the earth, suppressing all evil. Boom! A boundless, inexhaustible power of suppression surged forth from heaven and earth toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. A series of golden chains began to bind their bodies, and a power imbued with the power of the heavenly gods of this world pierced through the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's chest, sealing away all of their powers. The dragon head and phoenix head's anguish cries became softer and softer, and their consciousness became more and more blurry. A pair of crimson eyes suddenly opened and looked up into the sky. The human head came to its senses, and it looked up at the divine sword in the sky as its mouth gaped open in shock and horror. Oh, how terrifying! What the hell is this? Big Brother Dragon, Big Brother Phoenix, save me. No one responded to its cries for help. The only response it received was a golden sword projection imbued with paramount power. The golden sword projection pierced through the human head's head and merged into its body. The human head's eyes rolled over into the back of its head, and it finally fell unconscious. Another burst of green light imbued with the power of heaven and earth enshrouded the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's body, binding it as if it were a green cocoon. The divine sword disappeared, and everything returned to normal. At this moment, only the white-robed man became incomparably dazzling. Everyone turned to look at the man. It was hard to tell what kind of emotion they were feeling, but one thing was for sure, and that was admiration. This technique should only exist in the heavens. Fellow Taoist, and Lin is truly a celestial being. Su Wenjun exclaimed, "This isn't Lin? I used to think that the legends about him were exaggerated, but now that I look at it, it's clearly too conservative." Long Kuei was rarely convinced by men, but on this occasion, she was truly impressed by the man standing in the distance. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying wore a loving expression on her face. He's fearless even if Mount Tai collapses before him, and he can topple heaven and earth with a flick of his finger. A man like this makes me feel so safe. Bai Ling opened her mouth to compliment this flexing addict, but she discovered that she was too shy and couldn't bring herself to do so. And Lin clasped his hands behind his back and pondered on how to leave. At this moment, another voice entered his ears. Ding, ding, ding. The third technique of the realm creation evil vanquishing sword, Divine Fall, is ready, and you can flex at any time. Black Spirit Snake's joyful voice sounded, and Lin blinked with confusion upon hearing this. What did Divine Fall mean? He didn't even know what to say after hearing the name of the technique. However, he couldn't contact Black Spirit Snake, so he could only brace himself for now. He pointed a finger at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. I still have another sword technique, which is known as Divine Fall. However, if you provoke me, even a god will fall to my sword. Everyone's expression shifted slightly upon hearing this. He still had another technique. Bai Ling's expression shifted slightly as she looked up at Lin and the sky with a perplexed expression. Whoosh! A golden divine sword fell from the sky, parting the entire space. It was imbued with peerless sharpness, and all things crumbled before the sword even reached them. This was a true killing technique, the sword of the god-slaying sword. And Lin was still pointing at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, but he felt an extremely powerful sense of impending doom engulf his entire body. He felt like something was amiss, and he immediately looked up into the sky. A streak of golden light pierced through space before tearing through his divine body at an extremely terrifying speed and puncturing his chest. This was the divine fall sword, the sword of the god-slaying sword, but its target was the war god, Enlil. Enlil felt as if all of his organs had been pulverized by the divine sword, and his body plummeted to the ground, where he transformed into a streak of golden light and smashed a massive crater into the ground. Heaven and earth instantly fell silent as everyone faltered. What happened? Could it be that Enlil had made a mistake and allowed the divine sword to stab him? Or could it be that Enlil wanted to test out the Holy Trinity Fian Celestials, "I'll kill me" style? The golden light dissipated. A lithe and graceful woman in a black dress with long, jet black hair danced behind her as she pinned Enlil beneath her body. She held a massive golden sword in her hand, which had punctured the right side of Enlil's chest as a hint of a smile appeared on her face. Enlil. Bai Ling's expression shifted drastically upon seeing this, and she immediately charged toward Enlil. Even to Bai, Su Qianyun, and the others in the distance also charged toward Enlil. The woman snapped her fingers, and a spatial barrier of over 1,000 feet in radius enshrouded the two of them. The spatial barrier was so powerful that even Bai Ling was unable to break through it. Black Spirit Snake, can you be more gentle with me around my waist? It hurts. Enlil spoke with difficulty. Hee. Did you feel good flexing just then? A faint smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face. She had the lower body of a snake, and her long, slender snake tail wound tightly around Enlil's arms and waist. That's right, the one who had stabbed Enlil with her sword was none other than Black Spirit Snake. Never would Enlil have thought that he would be sucked into the third flexing technique. Black Spirit Snake, I was wrong. Tears welled up in Enlil's eyes as he spoke with a sincere expression, but he didn't know what he had done wrong. He knew that Black Spirit Snake had gone easy on him and didn't really want to kill him. Otherwise, the divine sword would have pierced into his heart instead of his right chest. You have to pay a price for flexing with my power. A smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she slowly pulled out the massive golden sword and stowed it away into her storage ring. Blood gushed forth from Enlil's chest, and Black Spirit Snake was very considerate as she pressed a hand onto the wound to staunch the bleeding. What do you want? Enlil asked with a resigned expression. I don't ask for much. Black Spirit Snake inched her exquisitely beautiful face toward Enlil's ear and whispered, I want your balls. Enlil shuddered upon hearing this. So that was what she was after. Outside the spatial barrier, all of the return to Void Stage mighty figures couldn't hear the conversation between Black Spirit Snake and Enlil, but they could see Black Spirit Snake pulling out the White Fox Divine Box from behind Enlil. They finally understood what was going on. So that mysterious woman was also after the Phoenix Egg. Everyone had chased Enlil all the way here just for the Phoenix Egg, now that someone had beaten them to it. How could they not be in a good mood? Damn it, my egg. I was dreaming of drawing the smile of the death god on my egg. Duan Hunzi clawed at his own face with despair on his face. Celestial Maiden Faye clasped a hand over her chest. My heart is bleeding. Katja, Black Spirit Snake opened the White Fox Divine Box, and the Phoenix Egg finally appeared before her. Chapter 744. The Phoenix Egg glowed with an extremely alluring golden light. Black Spirit Snake stared at the egg before her with an entranced expression. I've waited for a long time to have a phoenix as my beast pet, and now my dream has finally come true. A hint of life appeared in her eyes, and even her snake tail loosened slightly around Enlin's waist, giving Enlin a chance to catch his breath. Look at this, what a perfect egg. Black Spirit Snake placed the golden egg in front of Enlin, as if she were a little girl showing off her prize toy. Enlin nodded in agreement. That's right, what a fantastic egg. This Phoenix Egg is the greatest treasure in this world. I'll just take this egg and give everything else to Bai Ling. That's not a bad deal, Black Spirit Snake murmured. It was hard to tell whether she was speaking to herself or Enlin. Enlin was quite surprised to hear this. He had thought that Black Spirit Snake was going to take everything back from him. After all, Bai Ling was no match for her, and there was nothing she could do if she tried to use force. Then about the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. Aren't you going to seal it away for research? And Lin asked with a hesitant expression. There's nothing to research. The human head's brain is the biggest limitation. Black Spirit Snake heaved a forlorn sigh and said, I'm only doing my duty as the ruler of this world and sealing it away. After that, Bai Ling will have to solve this problem herself. You can choose to kill it. Didn't you see how he almost all died? And Lin glowered at Black Spirit Snake with an enraged expression. Yes, for the sake of this so-called seal, he had already walked through the gates of hell a few times. Black Spirit Snake inched closer to Enlin and looked him in the eye. If Bai Ling really is in a life-threatening situation, I will choose to intervene. As for everyone else, including you, what does their life or death have to do with me? Don't think too highly of yourself. Her voice was calm and collected, and her eyes were cold and aloof, as if she were a goddess looking down upon all living beings. Enlin swallowed in silence. Black Spirit Snake's words were very much like a queen's, and there was nothing wrong with putting it in her perspective. Who said that Black Spirit Snake had to be a good person? No. Who said that Black Spirit Snake had to be a good snake? In this world where strength reigns supreme, she really didn't need to consider too many external factors when making a decision. Black Spirit Snake released her tail from around Enlin's waist and tapped Enlin's glabella with a faint smile. It's important to know your place. Don't overestimate yourself. That's the only way you'll be more likable, understand? Yes, I'll plant more trees in my heart in the future. And Lin, who had regained his freedom, didn't talk back. He silently swallowed a vitality pill and agreed. Sensible. Black Spirit Snake nodded before asking in a nonchalant manner. By the way, were you the one who ordered that fairy and the black dragon to come to the summit? Huh? And Lin blinked in confusion. Are you talking about Tina and Xiaoza? You saw them? Were they? The black dragon stared intently at Enlin's face, but he didn't seem to be lying, so he could only reply, Don't worry. You can introduce them to me if you have the chance in the future. I'm quite interested in them. He and Lin swore in his heart that he would never introduce them to Black Spirit Snake. It was quite clear that they had some kind of bad blood between them. What he didn't know was that he was already responsible for the trouble that Xiaoza and Tina had caused. Black Spirit Snake's inexplicable sword strike was her way of venting her anger at the summit of the mountain. Black Spirit Snake turned toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, who was enshrouded in a ball of green light, and she waved a hand through the air, upon which a burst of boundless power carried the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial toward the center of the crumbling mountain. Heed my command, heavenly net rotation. She formed a strange seal with both hands, and then the wind and clouds surged. The collapsed mountain was actually guided by a majestic force, slowly floating into the sky, and then fusing together. In less than a minute, a massive mountain that stretched as far as the eye could see appeared before everyone's eyes. It was lush with greenery, and it was as if the crumbling mountain was nothing more than an illusion. All of the return to void stage mighty figures drew a sharp intake of breath as they stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes in astonishment. Reversing and restoring was far more difficult than destroying. To be able to completely restore a disintegrating mountain in such a short period of time, only a godlike figure could do this, right? It was exactly because of this that everyone was looking at Black Spirit Snake with awe and veneration in their eyes. In contrast, Enlin was quite calm and collected as he had witnessed the creation of worlds and the evolution of worlds with his own eyes. As such, this was nothing in his eyes. Aside from that, Black Spirit Snake's abilities were also very different from Tina's. Black Spirit Snake's so-called Lord of the World was most likely someone who could fuse their power into the world to resonate with heaven and earth, thereby borrowing the power of heaven and earth to carry out a series of actions. This type of authority could be transferred. As for Tina's Lord of the World, she had already reached the point where she was the world. The authority of the divine mirror world had already completely fused with Tina's body, so it couldn't be transferred. She could directly exercise the authority of the world instead of borrowing the power of the world. It was exactly because of this that the possibilities of her creation were far greater than the world she was currently in. And Lynn felt like Tina's Lord of the World was the true Lord of the World. She had already reached the level of I'm invincible in my world. A satisfied smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face before she tossed the black ball toward Bai Ling. I, Black Spirit Snake, am a woman of my word. I'm handing over the authority of this world to you. She deactivated the spatial barrier and was just about to leave with the phoenix egg in her arms when she thought about it. It seemed like dripping a drop of her blood here to make the phoenix egg acknowledge her as its owner was not a bad idea. So many people had come for this phoenix egg. After that, she would officially establish her relationship with the phoenix egg in front of everyone. Just the thought of it made her feel extremely excited and exhilarated. With this in mind, Black Spirit Snake decided not to leave. Instead, she placed the phoenix egg onto the ground with a joyful expression. Let's make the phoenix egg acknowledge an owner before we leave. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi, and the others all felt a stabbing pain in their hearts upon hearing this. What the F***CK? Not only was she taking away the treasure in front of everyone, but she was also going to make love to everyone and inflict secondary damage on them. Was she doing this on purpose? She definitely was doing this on purpose. Black Spirit Snake felt even more exhilarated upon sensing everyone's envious and hateful gazes. She slowly carved out an extremely complex spell formation on the golden egg, and, as the golden egg glowed with scintillating light, she slid her finger to release a drop of blood essence. Master recognition commencing. Chapter 745. Black Spirit Snake released a drop of blood essence with an elated expression. She looked at the phoenix egg on the ground as if it were her very own egg. Oh, even though she had never laid an egg before. However, this phoenix egg was extremely precious to her. The drop of blood essence landed on the surface of the golden egg, and Black Spirit Snake's heart rate accelerated as a hint of nervousness and anticipation appeared in her eyes for the first time. The drop of blood essence slowly slid down the surface of the golden egg before dripping onto the ground. Black Spirit Snake. Everyone instantly fell silent. Black Spirit Snake stared at the scenes unfolding before her with incredulity, and even her breathing accelerated. Could it be that something's wrong? Her red lips parted slightly as she chanted an incantation and released another drop of blood essence. Splat! The drop of blood essence landed on the phoenix egg, as if blood were dripping on a glass. The phoenix egg was like a tall, rich, and handsome man who didn't even spare a glance at the woman who was throwing herself at him, allowing her to slowly slide into the abyss of despair. The drop of blood essence landed on the ground, where a small crimson flower blossomed. Black Spirit Snake's face paled slightly upon seeing this, and her body swayed slightly as a dazed expression appeared on her face. How could this be? How could this be? That's impossible. Why would she reject me? She shouldn't have rejected me. All of the Void Stage mighty figures were astonished to see that Black Spirit Snake was unable to accept the phoenix egg as her master, and some of them even began to have second thoughts. If she couldn't accept the phoenix egg as her master, did that mean they had a chance? Of course, they wouldn't do something as stupid as snatching the egg, but that didn't stop an unrealistic hope from welling up in their hearts. Black Spirit Snake suddenly thought of a possibility, and she unleashed another spell technique as a dazzling red light flashed from her fingertip. Heaven and Earth bloodline tracking. That's right, this spell technique could determine whether the phoenix egg had a bloodline connection with another being. In short, it was an immortal spell, a paternity test. Black Spirit Snake pointed a finger at the golden egg. Whoosh! The golden egg tremored, and an indistinct golden line began to appear before circling around in the air, before slowly flying toward Enlin, before connecting with Enlin's heart. Once again, the scene was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Black Spirit Snake stared at Enlin, and her mouth gaped open, but she felt as if there was something stuck in her chest. rendering her unable to speak. Yes, she should have thought of this earlier. And Lin and Bai Ling had been together for so long. And with Bai Ling's personality, how could she not encourage him to let the phoenix egg recognize him as its master first? She just never thought that Lin would actually have the guts to take the phoenix egg for himself. When everyone saw that the golden line was connected to Lin, they were all shocked. They didn't expect that Lin had already taken the initiative to attack the phoenix egg. Hee Lin, I've underestimated you. Black Spirit Snake's shoulders trembled slightly, and her hands were clenched into fists, clearly on the verge of exploding with rage. That's right, she had spent a lot of effort in this world, and one of the highlights was the phoenix egg. However, not only had she handed over control of the world, even the phoenix egg had fallen into someone else's hands. All of her efforts had gone to waste, and she had truly lost everything. How could she not be angry? Calm down, Black Spirit Snake. I can give the egg to you. I don't want it anymore. And Lin waved his hands frantically. Black Spirit Snake chuckled coldly. You want to advance by retreating? You know that once a bloodline connection is established, even if Her Majesty Nuwa were here, she wouldn't be able to forcibly sever this connection and force the phoenix to accept another master. You're only going to make me feel even more disgusted by your words. Lin, so there was something like this? I'm sorry, I didn't know about this. And Lin had thought that with Her Majesty Nuwa's unfathomable cultivation base, she would be able to do something like this. But he didn't think that the power of the contract would be so powerful. Black Spirit Snake's expression was still as frosty as ever as she looked at Lin coldly. However, there's another way. What is it? And Lin raised his head with a curious expression. Black Spirit Snake replied in a slow voice, Kill you. And Lin, as long as I kill you, your bloodline will completely disappear and the connection between the two will be completely severed. After that, the phoenix egg will be able to accept another master. Black Spirit Snake made her way toward Lin, and her storage ring flashed as the realm creation evil vanquishing sword appeared in her hand again, from which extremely terrifying energy fluctuations emanated. And Lin took a deep breath and looked into Black Spirit Snake's eyes. Even though he was feeling very panicked, he couldn't lose in a battle of wits. If a Tao integration stage true God wanted to kill him, what were his chances of survival? In a normal battle, a Tao integration stage super mighty figure would probably be able to kill a soul formation stage cultivator with a single glance. And Lin was a soul formation stage cultivator, so he might only be able to kill him with a serious punch. In any case, if Black Spirit Snake didn't change her mind, and Lin was really going to be screwed. Stop, Black Spirit Snake. A white light flashed past, and Bai Ling appeared in front of Lin, blocking Black Spirit Snake's path. Tears welled up in Black Spirit Snake's eyes as she looked at Bai Ling. I have nothing left. Everything has been taken away by you, and you're telling me to stop? Don't you think you're bullying a snake? And Lin was astonished to see Black Spirit Snake suddenly revert from a powerful queen to a frail woman. What the hell was going on? I can let Lin live, but you have to give me back control over this mystic realm. Black Spirit Snake pouted. Bai Ling paused momentarily before replying in a firm voice. No, Black Spirit Snake. And Lin, was there a need to be so resolute? This was at the cost of her old friend's life. Didn't her conscience hurt? Was this the end? And Lin felt as if his heart had been plunged into despair. Bai Ling shot a glance at Black Spirit Snake before continuing. It's not like you really have nothing left. The Zhanqi continent, the Dark Hell continent, the Hui Ling continent. Which one of them isn't yours? These are only the things I know, and there are still things I don't know. So don't cry about how poor you are. Gasp. And Lin was shocked to hear this. There were so many worlds. Most importantly, there was the Zhanqi continent. Wasn't that the continent they had explored when they went to the Shouyang tomb? Who would have thought that Black Spirit Snake was the ruler of that continent? He couldn't afford to mess with her. The aggrieved expression on Black Spirit Snake's face faded slightly, but her eyes were still filled with killing intent as she looked at Lin. Lin, I'm not an unreasonable snake. This is your opportunity, and I won't kill you for the phoenix egg. But I'm not happy. If we ever meet again, I'll F***ck you up every time I see you. Gasp. Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this. And Lynn's legs trembled in fear upon hearing this. F***ck her up every time she saw him? That was way too terrifying. Lu Qianhuan clicked her tongue in wonder. The queen is quite aggressive. It looks like Enlin is destined to be a submissive. Black Spirit Snake looked at Enlin with a meaningful gaze, and Enlin's skin crawled with goosebumps. She harumphed coldly a moment later before transforming into a streak of black light and flying toward the center of this world. Enlin finally collapsed to the ground and panted heavily upon seeing this, looking as if he had just survived a near-death experience. He couldn't help it. When a Dao integration stage, super mighty figure threatened to kill him, he was under a lot of pressure. She left, and Lin asked with lingering fear in his heart. Bai Ling nodded with a smile. That's right. Congratulations, Enlin. You caught the eye of another beauty. Enlin didn't want to say anything at the sight of Bai Ling's gloating expression, and he silently stowed the phoenix egg away. Chapter 746. It's all over. Enlin heaved a long sigh of relief. He had almost put his life on the line for the phoenix egg. No, it's not over yet. Bai Ling shook her head before turning to the return to void stage mighty figures in the air. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei weren't too affected, but Celestial Maiden Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi had been given a fright. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying landed gracefully beside Enlin like a little girl, sending a fragrant breeze wafting through the air. Her waist was slightly bent like a willow twig, and she placed her hands on her waist as she bowed in a graceful manner. Mr. Enlin, please forgive me if I offended you earlier, she said apologetically. The Red Building Valley is willing to forever be friends with the 4-9 Immortal Sect. If you ever need our help in the future, we will do our best to help you. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's posture was very humble, as if she were a helpless little girl. And Lin didn't want to spare Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, but seeing as she had helped him fight off his enemies, he nodded after a moment of hesitation. All right, I can forgive you. Fei Ying was ecstatic to hear this. However, you try to kill me, so you have to pay a price, and Lin said. A faint blush appeared on Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's face, and she fidgeted with her voluptuous body. What price? I'd rather die than give in, and Lin chuckled. Hand over your storage ring. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying faltered. Huh, I, and Lin, am robbing you. And Lin snapped. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying. She had witnessed Enlin's power. Bai Ling, who had become the ruler of this world, and Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, and the others from the Greenwood Imperial family seemed to be standing on the same side as Enlin. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying gritted her teeth and tossed her storage ring to Enlin in the end. She pouted. Baddie. Oomph. The situation was dire, so she had to save her own life first. Upon seeing this, Duan Hunzi immediately flew over on his comical face, and he immediately knelt down to hand over the storage ring before declaring that the life-harvesting sect and the 4-9 Immortal Sect would forever be friends. And Lin expressed that he would not make friends with crooked sects, and that he would find an opportunity to wipe out Duan Hunzi's lair in the future. Duan Hunzi almost pissed his pants upon hearing this. Thankfully, Enlin decided to spare his life after taking his storage ring. Enlin joyfully refined the 2 storage rings before suddenly coming to a realization. There seems to be one person missing. Bai Ling closed her eyes and unleashed her authority over this world. It's here. She held on to Enlin's hand and teleported to a forest in the blink of an eye. A man without arms was given a massive fright by the sudden appearance of Bai Ling and Enlin. Don't kill me. Don't you want my storage ring? Here you go. I'll give it all to you. Right now, he was like an angel with broken wings, extremely pitiful. He tossed the storage ring to Enlin without any hesitation. Enlin was quite perplexed. Was he really that scary? In any case, this battle had truly come to an end. Su Wenjun and Long Kuei were very glad that they had formed an alliance with Enlin prior to this battle. Otherwise, their storage rings would have been gone as well. and Lin was quite elated after receiving the loot of 3 returned to void stage mighty figures. As expected, if he wanted to make quick money, it was better to just rob someone. He suddenly came to a realization. Most of his wealth had been obtained through robbery as well. This was most likely a coincidence. That's right. This had to be a coincidence. Giant and Lin. Master. At this moment, 2 more voices sounded from the distance. An elated expression appeared on Lin's face. Little Na, little Xiao. I'm so glad you're both all right. Xiaoze had reverted back to his youthful appearance. There were many wounds on his body, and his aura was also quite feeble. Tina was sitting on Xiaoze's shoulder, and her aura was also quite feeble. And Lin felt like he had to take back what he had just said. Holy F***CK. Who F***ed you two? It's a long story. We'll talk about it later. Xiaoze seemed to have thought of something terrifying, and his body shuddered involuntarily. Giant and Lin, we were all kept out by the golden barrier, so we couldn't come and help you. Thank God you're all right. Tina's eyes were filled with exhaustion, but she was still forcing herself to stay awake. She flew slowly toward Lin before wrapping her arms around Lin's neck, and her head crashed into his Adam's apple with a thump. Gasp! And Lin's Adam's apple throbbed with pain. Tina's eyes were filled with stars, and her petite body finally collapsed into Lin's palms before falling into a deep sleep. Her golden wings glowed with a faint light, and they seemed to be absorbing the vital energy around them in order to replenish the energy within her body. And Lin was quite envious upon seeing this. He also wanted the ability to absorb vital energy while lying down. Looks like everyone's finally here. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief. It's time to clear the area, Bai Ling said. And Lin blinked. Clear the area? That's right, get all the outsiders out of here. Bai Ling replied without any hesitation. She made a broadcast to the entire world as she spoke, informing everyone of the location of the passageway to leave this world. She gave them 4 hours to leave this world. Otherwise, if they were discovered after 4 hours, they would be killed without mercy. The passageway to leave was located at the center of the massive vermilion bird totem, which was comprised of countless canyons and rifts. And Lin didn't even notice the passageway. Long Kuei knew the location of the passageway, and she and Su Wenjun gathered all of the Greenwood Imperial family members before departing. Yin Lu, are you really not leaving? A hint of surprise appeared on Su Wenjun's face as he looked at the beautiful woman before him. I'm not leaving. I still have to establish a sect with classmate and Lin. Su Qinyun wore a mesmerizing smile on her face, and her dimples were extremely beautiful. That's great. Have fun, sister. Su Xin looked at the woman before him with an encouraging expression. He then transmitted his voice to Lin. You can do it, brother-in-law. And Lin transmitted his voice in response. We're just classmates, so don't overthink things. All right, brother-in-law. Su Xin immediately agreed. And Lin, Su Wenjun massaged his brows with a resigned expression. His princess was siding with an outsider. So what could he do? He was also in despair. He turned to Donghua. What about you? Donghua turned to Lin with an inquiring expression. Su Wenjun felt like a sword had been stabbed into his heart again. What was with this expression? Was Donghua a divine general from the Greenwood Imperial family or the 4-9 Immortal sect? Was he so determined to die so quickly? Go away. I don't need you. And Lin waved his hand with a disdainful expression. Donghua, the 500,000 spirit stones you lent me to repair the silver puppet. Donghua was a little hesitant. Oh, we can talk about that later. I don't have any money right now. And Lin chuckled. Donghua was very depressed, and he looked at Lin's storage ring with a resentful expression. He had just robbed 3 Return to Void stage mighty figures. So who would believe him if he said he didn't have any money? Thus, Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, and Donghua led the Greenwood Imperial family out of this world. As for Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi, and Bai Pengzi, they all fled as quickly as they could in fear that Bai Ling and Lin would change their minds. All of the other powers scattered throughout the world also retreated from this place. Bai Ling brought out a black ball and a white ball before surveying the entire world with a smile on her face. Very good. The world has been cleaned up, and we're all on the same side now. I'm going to give you some benefits. Chapter 747. Benefits? Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Big Sister Bai, why did you suddenly think of doing this? Unlin rubbed his hands together in an attempt to maintain his composure, but he was unable to conceal the scorching light in his eyes. Su Qinyan was a little embarrassed. After all, she wasn't very familiar with Bai Ling. We didn't do anything, so it's not a good idea to receive benefits, right? Lu Qianhuan tugged on Su Qinyan's sleeve. You'd be a fool not to take advantage of an opportunity like this. A faint smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. It's all thanks to all of you that I was able to obtain control over this world, so it's only right for me to give you all some benefits. She turned to look at Xiaoza and Tina with a vibrant smile as she spoke. Don't refuse. There are quite a lot of treasures left behind in this world. The black and white orbs appeared in the void and began to revolve like a pair of twin stars. Bai Ling's eyes glowed with a black and white light as her divine sense engulfed the entire small world. Dabai, I'll give this to you. She flipped a hand over, and a blue immortal fruit appeared in her hand as spatial ripples proliferated outward. This was the power of the ruler of this world. As long as there were no obstructions, she could retrieve items from afar within the small world. Bai Ling handed the immortal fruit to Dabai. This immortal fruit is known as the Sea Pearl Immortal Fruit. It has the effects of observing Tao and expanding one's sea of vital energy. It's a 5th-grade immortal fruit. Thank you, Big Sister Bai. You're so gentle and considerate, woof. This immortal fruit was perfect for Dabai, who was about to attain his domain, so he was extremely happy. Bai Ling turned to Lu Qianhuan and paused momentarily before pulling out a piece of jade that exuded frosty air. This is the Dark Frost Heart Jade that was produced in the Phoenix Research Institute's realm of extreme negative energy. Use it to enhance the power of your domain. Lu Qianhuan accepted the Dark Frost Heart Jade with a dainty smile. Thank you, Big Sister Bai. You're the best. I'm glad you like it. Bai Ling replied before closing her eyes as if she was searching for something else. Yeah, 2 of the Immortal Land's fruits have been plucked. If I had known earlier, I would have searched the bodies of those cultivators. They stole my things, yet they still want to run, she said with some dissatisfaction before continuing her search. In reality, one of the perpetrators was currently sleeping in Lin's arms, while the other was a woman by the name of Long Kuei, who had already left. For a fairy as beautiful as you, Su Qinyan, why don't I grant you a celestial spring to make you even more beautiful? Bai Ling waved a hand, and a clear immortal spring filled with vermilion bird would appear in front of Su Qinyan. You can use vital energy to control the temperature of this spring water, and it contains the essence of the pure Yin of heaven and earth. It can nourish one's skin and enhance one's true Yin physique. Lin's eyes widened. Su Qinyan's looks were already heaven-defying, and now she was even more beautiful. Was she going to break the heavens? Thank you, Big Sister Bai Ling. Su Qinyan accepted the immortal spring with a serious expression. Big Sister Bai Ling, when you visit the Greenwood Imperial family in the future, I have to give you a big present. Su Qinyan's serious expression made her even more adorable, and Bai Ling couldn't help but rub her head with a smile. All right, then I'll come visit you more often in the future. Bai Ling then turned to Xiao Zhe with a hint of appreciation in her eyes. You're already at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage, so there aren't many treasures that are suitable for you. There's also a Tao integration stage, True Dragon Bone, on the Divine Mountain. Take it and observe it for yourself. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this. Bai Ling made it sound like it was a casual statement, but this was the bone of a Tao integration stage, True Dragon. Its value was definitely not inferior to an immortal tool. To return to Void Stage, Primordial Dragon Tribe cultivators, this bone was even more valuable than an immortal tool, as they might be able to observe the path to Tao integration from this bone. This gift is too valuable. Xiao Zhe had never interacted with Bai Ling before, but he was too embarrassed to accept such a valuable gift from her. I'm telling you to take it, so take it. Bai Ling opened her palm, and a golden dragon bone appeared in her hand. She immediately pushed the dragon bone toward Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe was almost moved to the point of tears. He knew that he was basking in his master's glory. Otherwise, why would Bai Ling give him such a valuable gift? He was so excited that he almost blurted out, "Thank you, master's wife." But he then thought of Su Xiaolan, and he repressed the urge. Bai Ling turned her eyes toward Tina to find that she was still in a deep slumber. However, that didn't stop her from figuring out what she needed. After all, the Purple Star Tribe had done some research on the Fairy Tribe. She flipped her hand over, and a green, golden, and white gem appeared in her palm. This is the Four Seasons Immortal Stone, which is imbued with the Tao of the Four Seasons. If you put on your little fairy, she'll be able to better observe the power of nature. Isn't this stone a little too big for her? And Lin was a little surprised. You can shrink it with your intent. Bai Ling gripped the immortal stone lightly, and it shrank to the size of a grain of rice. And Lin placed the Four Seasons Immortal Stone on Tina with an extremely solemn expression. The aura exuding from this stone was even richer than that of a high-rank immortal fruit, and it was imbued with an extremely profound Tao intent. So, it was definitely going to be extremely valuable. Even someone as thick-skinned as Lin was feeling a little embarrassed now. Bai Ling was simply too generous. It was as if she were throwing treasures at him with no regard for her own life. To be honest, Lin's hands were a little weak. Bai Ling turned toward Lin with a thoughtful expression. Lin, you have so many treasures, I really don't know what to give you. How about you tell me what type of treasures you want? I'm a rather vulgar person, so I'll just take spirit stones. And Lin replied with a buoyant smile. Bai Ling, I don't have any. She added, this small world has everything, but it doesn't have spirit stones. And Lin was a little embarrassed. To be honest, what he lacked the most were spirit stones. As for other treasures, he didn't even know how many he had in his storage ring. Oh, right, there's something that you'll definitely like. Bai Ling's eyes suddenly lit up. What is it? And Lin blinked in confusion. 100 Beast fusion core, created by the mechanical bloodline, which is also the energy core of the original Gundam. Bai Ling explained with a dainty smile. I still have 100 Beast fusion core that I've been using for a long time. My God, I want it. And Lin was extremely excited. The power of Gundam 3 had already been engraved into his mind. Now that he had 100 Beast fusion core, he would have another helper at the pinnacle of the return to Void initial stage. This was already a huge trump card for Lin. Bai Ling waved her hand lightly, and a golden energy core appeared in her palm. There were 3 other Gundams in Lin's storage ring that didn't have cores, and they were all treasures that he had looted from the Purple Star ruins. He thought for a moment before pulling out one of the Gundams and refining it with a drop of blood. Thus, Gundam 4 was awakened. Chapter 748. My codename is Yao Ji, and I await your orders, Master. The Silver Gundam's voice was that of an extremely pleasant female. After it awakened, it bowed slightly toward Lin in an extremely graceful manner. And Lin was shocked. You can speak. A human-like expression of confusion appeared on the Silver Gundam's face. I represent the highest level of artificial intelligence in the Purple Star. How could I not know how to speak? Not only can I speak, but I also have extremely strong learning abilities. And Lin instantly felt like the Gundams of the past were a lot more adorable and dumb. The main point was that they were dumb. All right, then don't call me Yao Ji anymore. It's too hard to pronounce. Just call me Gundam 4. And Lin patted the Silver Gundam's shoulder with a gratified expression. Master, forgive me for being blunt, but to be able to come up with a name like Gundam 4 is a sign of one's lack of education, as well as one's disregard for precious things. You're not a good master, the Silver Gundam said with an enraged expression. And Lin, holy F***CK, what just happened? This Gundam was insulting its master. And Lin's dumbstruck expression drew a burst of laughter from the woman beside him. I'm your master, and this is the code name I gave you. All you have to do is carry out my orders seriously, understand? and Lin looked at the silver Gundam with a serious expression. The silver Gundam looked up into the sky at a 45-degree angle as tears flowed from its eyes. My heart is as bright as the moon, yet the moon shines upon the clear ditch, and Lin's expression darkened upon hearing this. What? It could even recite poems to express its emotions now? The silver Gundam continued to speak in a seductive voice. It's not that I love the world, it's that I've been misled by my past. Flowers will bloom and wilt. It's always the East Monarch's fault. If I go, I'll go, and if I stay, how can I stay? If I get all the flowers on my head, don't ask me where I'll go. And Lin felt like a sword had been stabbed into his heart upon hearing this. He repressed the urge to throw up blood and turned toward Bai Ling. Is there something wrong with this Gundam? Did he graduate from an acting academy? Bai Ling pursed her lips as if she was trying to hold back her laughter. These energy cores are of the highest quality, and they're considered top-tier artificial intelligence, so they possess different types of self-awareness. This Gundam of yours is called Demoness. Perhaps it's a rather lively self-consciousness? Lively? He could even recite poems to express his mood and mock his master. Was this something that could be summed up with the word lively? And Lin suddenly felt like Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 were so adorable even though they couldn't speak. All right, Gundam 4, hurry up and come back. And Lin felt like there was no point in bickering with the Gundam. The silver Gundam didn't move and proudly raised its head. And Lin, Enchantress, come back here. And Lin snapped. Yes, master. A cordial smile appeared on the silver Gundam's face as it made its way toward Lin before disappearing into his storage ring. And Lin finally heaved a long sigh of relief upon seeing this. He massaged his brows and sighed with emotion. Phew, I've finally gotten rid of him. Big brother, and I think this chick is quite interesting. An artsy Gundam, she's super awesome. Woof. Dabai stuck out his tongue with a lecherous expression. And Lin, shut up. All right, that's all for now. And Lin, you have to agree to a request of mine. Bai Ling clapped her hands with a smile. Huh? And Lin was dumbstruck. What are you waiting for? Don't you know how to return the favor? Bai Ling glared at Lin. And Lin, all right, I've been tricked as expected. You're the one who eats from others, and you're the one who eats from others. All right, tell me what you want. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. Bai Ling had helped him quite a bit, so he didn't want to turn her down. Aren't you planning to establish the 4-9 Immortal Sect? Give me a position, Bai Ling demanded. And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. Ha! She was offering herself up to him. This was a request. A trustworthy return to Void, final stage, mighty figure, joining his sect, was exactly what he wanted. And Lin was ecstatic, but his expression was as calm as an old dog's. He pretended to consider this request for a moment before waving a hand in a straightforward manner. All right, it looks like this isn't an issue considering our friendship. Everyone thought to themselves, as expected of the sect leader, acting so well. All right. Bai Ling was quite elated. You told me that your sect has different divisions, right? How about I become the Pavilion Lord of the Purple Star Pavilion? No problem. And Lin replied with a buoyant grin. You're the best. Thus, the 4-9 Immortal Sect gained another powerful backer. I'm going to search for a new Immortal Sect with Dabai and the others now. Do you want to come with us? And Lin asked. Bai Ling shook her head. No, I still have some things to take care of in this small world. Let me know when you decided on a location. I'll exchange voice transmission talismans with you. And Lin didn't insist and left after exchanging voice transmission talismans with Bai Ling, thinking back. And Lin had shamelessly begged for Bai Ling's voice transmission talisman, but Bai Ling simply flew away without leaving any way of contacting him. She only told him that they would meet again if fate allowed it. She was as free as a wild horse. Now that they had met again, Bai Ling voluntarily asked for Lin's voice transmission talisman. Perhaps this was what she meant by fate. Lin and the others left. Bai Ling stood on the spot and looked at Lin's departing figure as she murmured to herself, "There's no time left. I hope I can make it in time. After all, you're someone who has created so many miracles in just a few short years. I'm sure you'll be able to surprise me in the near future." And Lin flew toward the center of the phoenix image on Dabai's back, with Lu Qianhuan, Su Qinyan, and Xiaozhe. They followed the coordinates provided by Bai Ling and finally saw the passageway between the two worlds, upon which they departed from this small world. However, they were immediately dumbstruck as soon as they appeared outside. Gasp! What is this place? Enlin's mouth gaped open in shock. They were situated on a vast expanse of lush grassland. There were many vibrant plants growing on the undulating grassland as far as the eyes could see. All of them were exuding boundless vitality. Vital energy transformed into clouds and mist that drifted through the air. The pure energy combined with the vast landscape was extremely refreshing. Lu Qinhuan silently pulled out her phone and activated a spell formation. A pillar of light soared into the sky, following which a number appeared on her phone. She stared at the number for a few seconds before replying, "I use my phone's GPS. If my phone isn't broken, this is the place where the phoenix egg first appeared." Everyone was astonished. What kind of power could transform a vast expanse of scorched earth within a radius of over 500 kilometers into a paradise filled with boundless vitality? No one could think of an answer, so they could only speculate that it was the phoenix egg. Could it be that the phoenix egg's mutation had changed the surrounding environment? After a long while, and Lin finally spoke, "I have a bold idea. I have an immature suggestion for your bold idea." Woof. Dabai chimed in. The human and dog exchanged a glance and smiled. The Purple Star 6th Research Institute was also known as the Phoenix Research Institute. This was a small world. Bai Ling bade farewell to Enlin and the others with a disconsolate expression. However, not long after, her voice transmission talisman began to flash. This voice transmission talisman hadn't lit up for over 10,000 years. They had only just parted ways. And that man was already calling her? What kind of unexpected situation has happened? She was a little confused as she accepted the voice transmission talisman. What is it? We've chosen the location of our immortal sect. A smug chuckle sounded from the other side of the voice transmission talisman. Bai Ling was astonished. So soon? Where did you choose? It's right in front of your house. The man chuckled before adding, "It's right outside the exit of the small world. That place is amazing. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens." Bai Ling. Chapter 749. The 4-9 Immortal Sect was located outside the passageway leading to this small world. Bai Ling was astonished, and she spoke into the voice transmission talisman, establishing a sect in that godforsaken place? Can you be any more casual? Ha! Who said it was a godforsaken place? There's even a bird egg in that place. Furthermore, it really isn't what you think. I really wasn't being casual. The outside world has changed a lot. Come out and have a look if you don't believe me. Not only is the scenery here picturesque, but the vital energy here is also extremely rich. It's a great place to establish a sect. And Lin's cheerful voice sounded. And Lin's words were quite incredulous. This was clearly a vast expanse of scorched earth. So why did he have to say that the scenery was picturesque? Bai Ling hesitated momentarily before deciding to go out and have a look. If Enlin dared to trick her, she would just beat the sh*t out of him the next time they met. She passed through the passageway between the two worlds and left the small world. A light breeze then blew past her face, and a sense of comfort spread through her entire body. The vital energy here was so rich that it had liquefied into immortal mist, filling her with energy. This is the original place? Bai Ling stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before her eyes. Even though she had seen many bizarre things in her life, she was still quite astonished by what she was seeing. "Hi, big sister Bai, you're here." A white-robed man waved at her with a smile. Bai Ling made her way over and couldn't help but ask, "How did this happen?" The white-robed Enlin dusted off his spotless sleeves before speaking in a solemn voice. "Perhaps this is the will of the heavens?" Bai Ling. In any case, the 4-9 Immortal Sect is going to be established here. It just so happens that the land of the fallen phoenix used to be ownerless, so we can avoid disputes here. The place that connects to your small world is the place with the densest vitality. Our sect headquarters will be located here. After that, The entire realm of the fallen phoenix will be under the jurisdiction of our 4-9 immortal sect. And Lin spread open his arms and fantasized to his heart's content. This place is extremely valuable. Are you confident that you'll be able to control it? Bai Ling's brows perked up with curiosity. Su Su will communicate with the Greenwood Imperial family, and Lin said, "Don't worry, leave it to me." Su Qinyan patted her chest and promised seriously. As for the other forces, and Lin chuckled. "I don't care." Everyone shuddered, and a hint of reverence and respect appeared in their eyes as they looked at Enlin. This was the bearing that a sect leader should have. Their 4-9 immortal sect was already the most powerful sect in the Purple Star State aside from the Greenwood Imperial family. If the other sects really wanted to invade the 4-9 immortal sect's territory, then they would have to consider their own strength. Bai Ling smiled. "All right, let's start building the sect. Which one of you can build a house?" Everyone looked at each other and did not speak. The air was filled with silence. "Bai Ling, what about the designs? Or should I say, a rough blueprint?" Everyone remained silent. Bai Ling's expression darkened, and her eyes widened. "You guys didn't prepare anything, and you're telling me you want to establish a sect?" "We had to choose the location first, so we didn't think about anything else." And Lin spoke with an awkward expression. Bai Ling slapped her forehead, and her hair was a little disheveled. "I really have to give it to you guys. So you're going to establish a sect from scratch, and it's all about love?" "You can't say it's all about love." A thought suddenly occurred to Enlin, and a smile appeared on his face. "I have money. There's no problem that money can't solve. If we don't have a blueprint, we'll hire someone to design it. If we don't have a manpower, we'll hire workers to build it. In any case, as long as we have spirit stones, I don't lack spirit stones." Bai Ling's lips twitched slightly, and she looked at Enlin as if he were an idiot with too much money. Soon, a piece of news began to circulate throughout the Purple Star State, stating that a sect known as the 4-9 Immortal Sect had suddenly appeared with several return to Void Stage mighty figures among its ranks. This piece of news was verified by the Greenwood Imperial family, Red Building Valley, Flying Divine Sect, and other first-rate sections. Thus, the 4-9 Immortal Sect instantly became renowned throughout the Purple Star State, and it even created a massive stir in the Kingdom of the Nine States. The news spread like wildfire, and this sect was like a rising sun that had officially stepped onto the stage of the Taichu continent. Not long after that, another piece of news spread, and it instantly created a massive stir in the Kingdom of the Nine States. The 4-9 Immortal Sect was going to be located at the realm of the Fallen Phoenix in the Purple Star State. In 3 days, they would be hiring construction experts from the entire Kingdom of the Nine States to build a true sect at the center of the realm of the Fallen Phoenix. The establishment of an incomparably powerful new sect had attracted countless ambitious people to it. All of a sudden, heroes from all over the world gathered at the realm of the Fallen Phoenix. The moment they entered this region, they were all shocked by the picturesque scenery of the land. A vast expanse of scorched earth had been transformed into an immortal realm. What the hell was going on? Even though they were envious, it was very difficult for them to harbor any improper thoughts. It was like a mortal visiting the celestial court, but there was no way that they would become so envious that they would want to take the celestial court for themselves, right? Only an idiot would dare to think like that. Among these people, there were some construction experts from the cultivation world who had come to be hired to build a new sect, and Enlin and the others naturally had to treat them well. Some of them wanted to join the new sect, but Enlin told them to piss off first. There were also a large number of people who were representatives of sects of all sizes. They were here to befriend the 4-9 Immortal Sect and were eager to present their congratulatory gifts. The sect hadn't even been established yet, and they were already here to present their gifts? What the hell was this? Enlin would always accept all of their gifts before explaining to them how harmful it was to give them gifts in advance. He also suggested that they do it again when the sect was officially inaugurated and the ribbon-cutting ceremony was held. All of the sect representatives were completely dumbfounded. F*CK. How could they suggest that they present their gifts again? What the hell was going on here? Each sect's congratulatory gift was stored in a high-grade spatial ring, and it was temporarily managed by Dubai as the sect's operating funds. This year was the year of the dog, and Dubai had the fortune dog halo, so he might be able to make a fortune. Soon, 3 days had passed, and Lin, Bai Ling, Lu Qianhuan, and the others stood at the center of the realm of the fallen phoenix. There were over 1,000 cultivators gathered below them. There were powerful cultivators with high cultivation bases, as well as cultivators with low-rank Dao body stage cultivation bases. In short, there were no mortals here. They were the construction team of the cultivation world, and many of them had participated in the construction of immortal buildings. And Lin didn't think that a single call from him would gather over 1,000 construction workers here in just 3 days. One had to realize that construction workers were extremely rare in the cultivation world. In fact, there were probably less than 1,000 construction workers in the entire Purple Star State. He cleared his throat. Welcome, everyone, to join me in the grand construction of this sect. Now, I'm going to sort out the talents first. Those in charge of design and planning, please stand over here. Those in charge of material creation and procurement, please stand over there. Those in charge of spell techniques, please stand over there. There were so many people here, and Lin couldn't take all of them. That wouldn't even be enough to pay his wages. Due to the fact that construction workers in the cultivation world had spell techniques, they were extremely efficient, so he only needed to select 100 people. The 1,000 cultivators all sprang into action upon hearing this. At this moment, a crisp and slightly domineering voice suddenly sounded. No need. Withdraw all of them. I alone am enough here.